welcome to day 21 of the Genesis of Androzani Advent Calendar for 2023, and for this video we are doing a massive throwback. This is going to be a video that was filmed 2.5 years ago. It was filmed in the middle of 2021, where I watched the Classic Who story Silver Nemesis for the Worst of Classic Who series with Matt Moir, and we watched it back then because of the marathon. He was up to it, and I decided, hey, I'll watch it with him. At the time, skip forward, but now finally 2.5 years later, here we are. I'm finally going to show you all this installment of Worst of Classic Who with Silver Nemesis. So here is the video.
Listen, let's not talk about that. I have a more important question for you than talking about Mordred Undead. What would happen?
Yes.
What would happen if Iron Man and the Silver Surfer teamed up?
I don't know. You get two dudes flying.
They would be alloys.
I fucking hate that, but I love it.
I was a bit worried that you might guess that because it's a bit more of a mainstream joke, so people might have told you, but no.
Yeah, no, I've not been told that. Mainly because I think people just try to avoid puns when it comes to me because I love them so much.
Okay.
So they're like, let's not give him fuel. Let's not give him fuel.
I see. Well, hello and welcome to the next in the Worst of Classic Who series. We are filming this way in advance. At this point in my marathon, I haven't even gotten to Terminus yet, and I'm already doing Silver Nemesis.
And at this point in my marathon, I'm at Silver Nemesis.
Yes, but this will be coming out after Dragonfire, so this is going to be a while before this one actually releases.
Is this the last one in your series before you unlock
Dimensions in Time.
Yeah.
This is the this is the last level before the boss battle. And
I feel honored.
yeah, so technically, I mean, I guess this in a good way, I suppose this kind of spaces out my last Cyberman stories, because then it means that even though on the channel the space between this and the Wheel in Space will only be like a few videos, for me watching it, it'll still be a while before I watch the Wheel in Space, so a nice little gap.
Yeah.
But spoiler warning anyway, because I like to discuss things that I have seen, which at this point is all of New Who and almost all of Classic Who. Leave a comment.
Yeah, because although you've not recorded the videos after like Terminus and after yet, there's not many of them. So
yeah, well I've got let's see. I've got the Wheel in Space. I've got to watch Terminus, the King's Demons, The Awakening, Planet of Fire, Twin Dilemma, Time Lash, Time in the Rani, Paradise. Oh no, sorry, I've already seen Paradise Tales in 2013, but I've got to rewatch that. Dragonfire, and this one.
Silver Nemesis.
Yep.
So
chronologically, this is the last story I haven't seen, but it's not the last story I haven't seen ever.
Yeah.
But yeah, people leave a comment for New Who episodes to defend against Hellbin. I guess, well, actually, to be honest, at this point,
You've not told me again.
no, I haven't. You'll find out. But
and now I have no means of guessing.
Well, just thinking about when this video comes out, the only one that's left is Dimensions in Time, and I already know what we're having to defend for that one. So I guess don't leave a comment. Like what would be the
Don't leave a comment this time, guys.
What would be the point?
Yeah.
One of my friends, Callum, did a reaction to this story on his channel a while back, and he says it's one of his least favourite Doctor Who stories ever. I've heard this one rips off Remembrance. I've heard it makes the Cybermen look shit. I've heard that it's the one that has the most Cartmare Master Plan stuff in it. I've heard that it's one of the worst Cyberman stories. I've heard a lot of things about it.
can I address all 5 of those things without spoiling it?
Probably not, because I think
So,
you might have to spoil it to address that, wouldn't you?
Well, with the Caramel Master Plan stuff, I'm not going to say anything because that's just true. I think it's the most explicit the Caramel Master Plan gets, and I'm not going to tell you what I mean. With the Cyberman stuff, I think people overestimate how shit it treats the Cybermen, but I will admit it's no Earthshock. And with the Remembrance of the Daleks thing, it is a similar sort of plot, like, and it's a similar sort of thing structure-wise, and it's, let's just say, if you say this is better than Remembrance of the Daleks, you're very wrong, because this is very much an inferior version of that, but I still think it's enjoyable, and I hope that you find this enjoyable as well.
I've heard that it's very underwhelming in the context of it being a 25th anniversary story.
Yeah, only because but I think that's only because Remembrance and Greatest Show in the Galaxy just fit better than Silver Nemesis does, and I feel like it doesn't really do much for the anniversary side of it. It's I don't really count this story as the 25th anniversary. I count the whole season as celebrating it. I don't consider this particular story specifically 25th anniversary.
This is considered one of the 3 fan service seasons from the 80s. You've obviously got season 20, and then you got season 22, and then you got season 25. With seasons
I think
20
season
and
25 gets away with it.
What I was going to say was with season 20 and 25, it was because it was actually an anniversary, so there was a reason for it happening.
Yeah.
Whereas with
the
season
reason for
22,
it's because Twin Dilemma was shit. They realised, oh shit, we fucked up with Twin Dilemma. Let's remind people why they like this show.
Colin Baker's not
bring
being
back the
very
Cybermen.
popular.
Bring back the Daleks. Bring back the Sontarans.
Bring back the Master. Bring back the Master. Bring back the second
Let's
Doctor.
bring back John Pertwee. Fuck it. Let's bring back John Pertwee's face. Let's bring back Patrick Troughton. Full stop. Let's bring back Telos. People like Tomb of the Cybermen. It's missing. Fuck it. Let's throw Haley's Comet in there as well for some fucking reason. But anyway, yeah.
Yeah. Oh yes, of course, the crumpled up rubble.
Yeah. I mean, the rest of the sequence holds up really well. It's just those meteors. Ew.
Look, I think it's charming, but I don't know if I go that far. Like, why is his face painted silver?
Because they were like, oh, I think the visual effects artists were like, oh, I think it would look better if we did that. But they were planning to do it themselves, but then they just painted Sylvester's face silver, and then they're like, I guess we're using this now.
South America.
That's like
the
a
Nazis.
fucking Chibnall title card. Yeah.
I feel like I'm watching Indiana Jones.
When people say this is a rip-off of Remembrance, first fucking scene. Although I do feel like the finer details of what everyone is doing is different, because this isn't to do with race. They're just fucking neo-Nazis from memory.
Hey. No spoilers. Oh. Hunting.
Herr Flores. Wonderful news.
Oh, this is a vegetarian agenda, Matt. What have you done? Don't kill the bird.
Very good, my lady.
So this is Lady Painfort and Richard, I think his name is.
On my life, ma'am. I guarantee it.
Golden arrows. I can see where this is going.
Yep. It's going straight for a Cyberman's chest. I don't know why they're doing it in the story. That is the Chekhov's gun effect.
That's Kev McCulloch music.
Uh-huh.
I feel like Kev McCulloch would make good arcade music.
Yeah. I personally think his music in season 25 is definitely the peak of his music. It's actually alright. So you can see there's the theme of like bow and arrows. Got lots of jazz. There's production photos of like Sylvester McCoy and Sophie Aldred, like Sylvester McCoy's like playing the umbrella like a like a saxophone, but that doesn't happen in the episode, alas.
Oh, we'll have to go back and find out.
Oh, Professor!
So it's weird. Like here's the thing. It's more Cartman Master Plan because it's more explicit, but it's less Cartman Master Plan because the Doctor's a fucking idiot.
Well, I probably arranged it centuries ago.
I love the Doctor and Ace.
Yes, we know.
Who are they?
I stan them.
Oh! You should have gotten out a spoon
Yeah.
and deflected those bullets. Wow, so they just got shot at, did they?
After flipping them off.
I feel like I'm watching the End of Time Part 1. I'm just waiting for a potion to happen.
Yeah.
From the books of Saxon!
Maybe that's what he's getting it from.
It's my tape deck and I want to play this.
This is
Oh,
all
tape
just a
decks.
deck.
The way Sylvester McCoy answers questions in ways that makes you ask more questions.
Yeah, like, his Doctor is meant to be enigmatic. The writer of the story I think they accepted this story idea because the writer was going along the lines of the Cartmel Master Plan already. So they're becoming Colin Baker.
Yeah, this is very
Yeah,
this is very Books of Sax, isn't it?
Yeah, except made with MS Paint.
Never dying! Never dying! I have a sudden urge to want John Sim to be in this story now. That looks like a nipple.
It just glided across the screen, it looks like a nipple.
Here we go. Oh.
Yeah, it's exactly what we've got to do. Look at all this stuff. You take that out.
Wow, this is more like vegetarian agenda. You got a tiger's head in an evil place.
You're just saying that because I'm a vegetarian.
Yeah, I know.
You fucking... Just because you work at KFC.
Oh, it's a fez.
And we're looking for a silver bow.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure he
yes,
has a
Amy.
mop as well.
Oh yes, Amy.
Yeah, he has a mop too.
Wow. Stephen Moffat.
Stephen Moffat is a hack fraud. Always remember that.
Whoa. Okay.
That's a big explosion.
Oh, watch out.
I think that's impressive.
I can't believe it. Moffat stole the fez from this story.
Yeah. Because the mop was there as well.
Yeah. Oh,
The
more
bow
glass
wasn't
breaking.
his.
Mood.
Saying, I like that he said that I'll tell you 350 years ago, and then they go 350 years ago. They actually speak in that language.
That language called kind of Old English.
Yes, but the thing is, when you actually get to the Shakespeare Code, Shakespeare doesn't speak like that at all. Oh, shut your big fat
Well,
mouths!
Then again, the TARDIS isn't there.
That's true.
Also, Gareth Roberts.
Yes.
And Russell T. Oh, okay, Russell T. Davies probably wanted to streamline things.
Yeah.
TARDIS
Although they
translator
do make a joke
rules
about
are
it
just
though. Martha
inconsistent.
tries to speak that way, and the Doctor's like, no, don't. Ah, here we go. That tear gas.
It might be.
Wow, that's very, very, very mown grass.
Been here before.
Deja vu.
No, with a skill.
Hold on. Been here before. This is Satellite 5. Seen this
Doctor?
bit. Like in a GIF.
Yeah. It's the Queen.
Doctor!
Is it actually?
Well, I don't think it's the literal Queen, but that's meant to be the Queen.
Why did you say something?
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you.
Like, it's not actually Elizabeth playing herself.
I know.
I don't think the BBC
But
have
it's
that
the
money.
same character that appears at the end of Voyage of the Damned. And
Yes.
and in the Idiot's Lantern on TV.
I expect him.
I see. Past
This
adventure
time
that
he'll
we
be
didn't
alone.
see, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's her score of the Doctor. So they've got the bow, but Lady Painfort's got the arrow. The Nazis want Nemesis. Lady Painfort wants Nemesis, and the Doctor doesn't want anyone to have Nemesis.
There must be neo-Nazis then, because this is 1988.
Yeah, they are neo-Nazis.
Doctor?
Whoa! Hello there.
Wait.
Another player joins the battle.
I feel like I'm watching Death of the Daleks. You know the end of Death of the Daleks Part 1 when the Daleks just turn up randomly?
Them yet.
Yeah.
Live to regret it.
They just join? Hello there.
What's
Yeah.
okay?
This is why I would say it's a bit different to Remembrance, because it's different factions, like completely different factions, who want Nemesis.
Right.
Rather than two rivaling Dalek
Yeah, it is
factions
very
that
similar
not only
to-
want the Hand of Omega, but also
It-
act as...
It is very similar to the end of Death of the Daleks Part 1 where they just turn up out of nowhere and they're like, hello there.
Yeah.
We're part of this too.
Yeah. Yeah. And this is like David Banks' final performance in the TV show.
Is he still alive?
Apart from May. Yeah, he is still alive.
Hmm.
He's done Big Finish,
Oh yeah.
but it's his final performance in the TV show.
I see. Well, that was Part 1. I don't know, that was kind of fun.
Yeah,
Like-
I think I don't think it's that amazing, but it's enjoyable.
I don't know. It was.
Yeah, but I think
I get the point. Like, I get the vibe. It was just a lot of setup, wasn't it? It's just a lot of setup for what's to come.
yeah, it's trying to put the pieces into play.
So you got neo Nazis. You got
And then-
the Thou Art characters from the 1600s, and they have the
Yeah,
the
you got
arrow.
Lady Painfort and Richard.
Then you got
yeah.
Nemesis
They've
from
got the arrow.
The Nemesis is from the comet. And
yeah, the Nemesis is the MacGuffin,
that's from the
as I
comet.
said earlier.
So the Nazis want Nemesis for power. And then
They want a Fourth Reich.
And then you've got
I mean, let's face it, all of the factions want it for power.
yes.
But, like, the neo-Nazis want it for the Fourth Reich, Lady Painfort's just a bitch, and the Cybermen are the Cybermen.
Yeah.
So, like...
But then you got the Doctor as well. Doctor and Ace.
And he's like, none of you get it. Fuck you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's basically the dynamic that's going on.
So four different factions want a MacGuffin. Okay.
Yeah.
I like the it's
Well,
very
the only
interesting
one that wants it for
tie
different
into the
reasons is
South
the
America.
Doctor, and he wants it so that the others don't have it.
I do find it interesting how I mean obviously it's changed now, but in the original ranking video that Will did for the seasons, he was talking about how season 26 he got bored of the whole the Doctor having to go back to things that he's done before with like settling the score or something. And he's praised season 25 for not doing that, and yet Silver Nemesis exists.
And Remembrance to an extent.
Yeah, and then let's also not forget that his favourite season of all time is season 5, and the Abominable Snowman exists.
Yeah.
I guess technically that one isn't really settling the score. It's just been like, oh, I remember you, my old friend Padma Sambhavar. It's not like an amazing part 1, but it was, fine. Liked it.
People call this a bad story or wrong, but it's not amazing.
Well, I can tell you that the first third isn't bad. So that's something.
Yeah.
Though I hear once the Cybermen turn up is when things go south, but we'll see what happens.
It's because the Cybermen aren't necessarily the best in it. Okay, there we go. I love that big bang at the start. But I don't like Kevin Collins' version of the theme that much, viewers. Like it's... But Connor's clearly vibing with it. So in case you didn't know, we're both on the spectrum.
Yes, I can give myself the pass to call myself whatever I want. Yeah, that's what I said to Will Maddox very early on. He's like, you seem like one of the cool kids. I'm like, no, I'm on the spectrum. Sorry.
Yeah.
We then put some round heads and maybe pin.
Oh, I love the round things. Ah, there we go.
A very palpable hit.
A very palpable hit. The golden arrow.
And because he's also an archer, that gives him a good
Just thinking,
effective
like,
weapon against
if
the
you were
Cybermen.
if I was a kid watching this, who would I cheer for? I'm not sure.
The Doctor?
I used to be a big player of RuneScape, so I'm just at the moment thinking Golden Arrow, Poison plus plus.
Lady Painfort should be a playable character in RuneScape.
Oh, he's taking the bow. Oh, bloody Gareth Roberts is a hack as well. You can tell that David Banks Cyberman is very influenced by Darth Vader.
Yeah. I once saw, like, a fan, like, created, like, what if Doctor Who wasn't cancelled? And, like, there was gonna be, like, a fucking... It was, like, this dramatic plot of, oh, if Doctor Who doesn't get enough viewing figures, we'll cancel it. And they had fucking David
It's like-
Prowse play, like, fucking Cyber Leader.
Yeah. It's like, people have said, like, what if the David
Okay,
Banks
this music's
Cyberman...
the Remembrance music, but again.
People have said, they're like, oh,
I'm not
we got
fucking...
some thugs. We got some delinquents, Matt.
Some,
But yeah. But no, people have
Bad
said, like,
boys.
well, what if the David Banks Cyberman was in Revenge? And I'm like, well, that can't happen because Star Wars wasn't out yet. It's interesting, though, how, like, George Lucas stole from Doctor Who and then Doctor Who stole from Star Wars. Yeah, I definitely think Kev McCulloch's music would suit an arcade game.
Yeah. Okay, not gonna lie, I can't, this shot kinda sucks. Like, it's fucking over some wooden spokes as well. This is probably just them fucking around.
Yeah, it's just them vibing. I do like how the Cybermen have basically been given, like, a shiny silver finish, haven't they?
That's an unpopular opinion. People don't really like the shiny finish.
Well, I have a lot of unpopular opinions.
I think giving them more of a sheen is fine, but they're just all sheen now.
They do
Because
look
they are meant to
slippery.
be made of metal.
Oh my god, what the hell? Holy shit. That's pretty brutal. This boombox looks like the
See the ones they're communicating
the
with.
bomb from Earthshock.
Reinforcement.
Yes. But if
It
you
might
jam
be the
signal-
same prop. If this were any other Doctor, like, it would be wiping the tape. But he's just like, fuck it, we're gonna broadcast some jazz in their transmissions.
Are we having fun?
Yeah.
Of
I
course
just love this vibe.
Of course he's got his head on the, like, downside.
So all the blood can flow, and everyone knows Time Lords work better
Yeah,
when
so
they've got
his
blood
yes,
in their brain.
so the Seventh Doctor's brain can get erect.
Time to go.
I do love a jam session.
They just fucking backflips. Well, not backflips, like back rolls.
Are they dead yet? Or are they just like they're gonna have erect brains too?
I think they're just gonna have erect brains, but not by choice.
Surely they wouldn't live that long.
What do
I
you
don't
mean?
know. I don't know, how long can
being
you
hung
last upside down?
No, they were just being like, I don't think they were there for fucking days.
I don't know, I'm just thinking, how long can you last upside down? I don't want to find out.
That's a question for Google.
I feel like these characters would work really well in a Thor film.
You cannot return at all. I tell you,
Yeah.
Richard, either you'll assist.
Yeah, like this guy looks like one of the is it Warriors 3 or Heroes 3?
Yeah, Warriors 3, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that scene in the first
guy
Thor
looks
where
like-
they just find him in that random building.
Yeah.
I ordered you to be buried here when I planned my tomb. See, there's my stone.
Oh,
If the
here's what I prepared earlier.
Yeah. She was like, "Oh yeah, it was a one-way trip. Here's your grave."
It's like the Angels Take Manhattan, where he's like, Amy, why does this gravestone have my name on it?
Yeah. Stephen Moffat's a hack.
Oh wow, he really is.
Because I mean, this involves a living statue as well. I love like Sylvester McCoy's always like umbrella first.
Yeah.
You'll find that the crypt has weathered with age. The
You gotta
fact of
admit,
her death
like,
will
although
never-
this story
Simon
is
putting his
fairly-
hands together.
Yeah. Although the story is a fairly carbon copy of Remembrance, you gotta admit its aesthetic choices are still striking and unique.
I like the location work.
Yeah, like Cyberman at a castle.
And this is actually
Tell
this
me
is
how
something
this
that
isn't
I'm
original.
this is something that I really like about the McCoy era as a whole, is the location work.
Yeah, the studio work's also really good in my opinion. But this is a very much location-based story.
I would say most of seasons 25 and 26 really are. They really are location work.
They're like, fuck it's gold. Oh fuck. Like, this story's fun. I like it.
I'm a good girl and do what I'm told.
Blow up that vehicle.
Okay, that was a bit sexual.
Hey, she's a minor.
Ugh,
Shush.
that makes it even worse.
No, she's like, no, because the whole thing was like, Ace, I don't suppose, you were, to ignore my instructions and not bring Nitro 9. And, like, they were talking about the hypothetical, oh, if you hypothetically brought it, but, well, you totally didn't bring any. And then he's like, yes, now blow up. Blow that up. They just know each other too well. I feel like this story would work better if it was extended.
We want to talk to you.
Ah, I see.
I don't know. If
Alliances now, are we?
With Wagner's Ring des Nibelungen?
This is like Doomsday when the Daleks and Cybermen face off.
Yeah, Cybermen versus Nazis.
We could make an alliance. Request denied.
will be fatal. We are
Betrayal
invincible
will be fatal.
to your weapon.
I love David Banks.
We will have a slice of the pie of slavery in the world, and you shall have yours. That's basically what he's saying.
Yeah. Yeah, but it's great. I mean, slavery's not great, but, like, its delivery's great.
I'm gonna take the 20th century. It appeared in 1913.
But he launched it into space
25 years
when he
later,
was the first Doctor? Is that what I'm supposed to
1928.
believe?
Hitler annexes Austria.
1963?
Kennedy
Interesting.
assassinated.
So basically, the Nemesis is why places are shit. Yeah, the Nemesis is basically, it generates destruction around it, hence why a lot of the conflicts that happen every 25 years happen.
But when he launched it into space, was that as the first Doctor, or was that different?
I'm not sure. I think it's implied that it's the first Doctor, or
at the very least, the first Doctor was on Earth when the Nemesis thing was launched.
possibly.
Well, he was there. He was there on the 23rd of November 1963, which is 25 years before this story.
Yeah, but it wasn't launched then. It was just near Earth then.
We have the statue, the arrow.
So Richard's an idiot.
For some reason, this guy, when he looks at that statue, it reminds me of when Derek Jacobi's master looks at the pocket watch.
I mean, they've got very similar. Well, I say very, kind of similar faces.
Oh, this looks like an axon. Do you know what I mean when I say the axons look like they have uncut eyes?
Yeah. They look like they've got fucking chipmunk eyes, like original Palpatine. Can I just say, for like the 80s, I know this probably wouldn't have been the most difficult thing in the world, but it's impressive that they've got like CGI, but it's transparent.
Speaking of impressive.
What's all that?
That looks more impressive than that
Cyber
shot where they were.
Thousands of them.
Ah, the cyber... Wow. That's a lot of Cybermen.
Yeah, this. Yeah. We don't see
Okay,
all
so-
of them in the story.
Yeah, so, like, you know, it's a fun
Yeah.
story so far. Like, it's just fun. I don't have a lot to say, it's just fun, that's it. It's
Yeah.
literally just 4 factions of people looking for the same Nemesis MacGuffin thing. You got the Nazis, the Cybermen,
Yeah.
the people from 1600s South America, and the Doctor and Ace. And it's just sort of...
I would say I'm not too surprised that people aren't really a fan of the Cybermen in this story, because it's very... I guess their presence is quite... They're kind of like Ascension of the Cybermen.
Well, they're not really that,
It's that
powerful,
sort of
are
usage.
they?
Yeah. I mean, it's the same sort of usage as in Ascension of the Cybermen and Time of the Children.
Well, yeah, but I actually enjoy this story.
Yeah. Well, it's because it's an enjoyable story with a better Doctor and better TARDIS team.
Although I will say that scene where the delinquents talk to the can you remind me what the names of those people are again? It's Richard and what's the lady's name?
Lady Painfort.
Lady Painford. Yeah. So that scene with the delinquents, their dialogue did actually remind me a lot of Chibnall characters. They were very, very upfront. They're just like money. We want money.
Yeah, they do feel very much like Chibnall characters, and it's like,
Yeah.
as
it
you
has
can
that-
tell,
It has that similarity to
Yeah.
Ascension of the Cybermen.
yeah. And
Now
I guess
that's what I call an
the
inner
thought-
conflict.
Yeah, like the sort of the way the Cybermen are being used, I think is quite similar, because they're focusing more on Cybermen as warriors rather than Cybermen as like grotesque, once human zombie just.
Oh yeah, no,
fucking
it's certainly not a.
technologically
It
just
certainly
horror.
isn't horror. It's
ideas.
definitely more so action.
Then again, the Cybermen in the 80s weren't really horror based; they were more action based. But
I think
here
this-
it's
I think the Cybermen are very durable. Like you can do a lot with them.
I don't think durable is the right word. Malleable is the word you're looking
Yeah, sorry.
for.
Yeah, malleable.
That's a lemon squeeze moment right there, viewers.
Durable would imply that they survive every different.
I
form.
mean, they're durable to everything that's not gold, so
Yeah. Well, I was talking more about like ideas and stories, not actual physically
Yeah.
durable.
you can do quite a lot with them.
Yeah, you can do
And
a lot
it's-
with them, but I think once you start getting to like James Corden beating him with the power of love, that's when it goes too far.
No, I don't mind that, but I don't like it. Oh no. Am I going to be comparing Closing Time later to Hellbent?
No, because I've already done that with Dylan,
Alright.
the Horns of Nimon.
Alright. But yeah, so can you see why people think this is the low point of season 25?
I mean, yeah, it is the low point of season 25, but that doesn't mean it's terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that.
I can see why someone would. I can see why someone would see
Yeah.
25th anniversary story and think, "Huh, no."
Yeah. When Remembrance is literally right there.
Yeah. Even Greatest Show in the Galaxy, I would say, is
Yeah.
It's sort of like if Remembrance is like the the mainstream blockbuster anniversary story, then like Greatest Show in the Galaxy is like the hipster stew bagful like outside the box anniversary story. And then you got Silver Nemesis, which is just kind of fun, bit of an action romp.
Yeah. I would say this is more of an anniversary story than Happiness Patrol was, because Happiness Patrol had some elements, like some references to older stories, but this one is very much clearer, and definitely this isn't stuff that's just to do with the past, but because of the Cartman Master Plan stuff, it was also building on what's in the present and what may come in the future.
It would have been interesting to see if they did a season 27.
Yes.
And also, I believe if they had, then I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Lung Barrow would have been one of the stories in it, right?
No.
Okay. It would have turned up eventually, though, wouldn't it?
Probably. Lung Barrow was nearly in season 26, actually.
I mean, the thing is that a lot of those V&A stories would have just happened. Like, you probably would have gotten Human Nature at some point in the 90s if McCoy had stayed around for a few more years.
Yeah, and Nightshade and... Yeah. Well, maybe
Damaged
not
Goods.
necessarily McCoy,
You may have gotten Damaged Goods, to be honest. You may have gotten a Russell T Davies Classic Who story. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, just very much neutered down.
I mean, apparently he... apparently
neutered down than the audio version.
Well, apparently he almost did a Colin Baker story. That's wild.
Yeah, and Big Finish are actually making that. Also, The Long Game was written in the 90s.
Yeah.
Apparently.
Yeah. That's true.
But yeah, Long Barrow was originally going to be made in season 26, but then when they thought let's focus more on Ace, it got replaced by Ghostlight. And you can sort of almost see similar sort of aesthetics and ideas.
Don't you think that's kind of funny how, The Long Game was the one of the Series 1 stories that Russell wrote. It's the one that had the most time behind it, and yet it's the weakest one.
And it was the weakest one.
How does that happen? I feel like maybe it's down to the fact that firstly, in the 80s, obviously he was much younger, so maybe his writing wasn't as developed. And then also the other thing is that I just think Russell T Davies thrives under pressure. He writes his best stuff when he's got no time to prepare for it.
Yeah.
I think he said he wrote Midnight in 4 days.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird.
Also, thing is, I have a feeling he just wrote it and just didn't touch it, and then went, oh shit, I better do some stuff with Adam. And
well, he probably just rewrote it considering that the leads are in it.
Yeah, he probably just redrafted it.
I mean, the thing is that the leads don't actually impact the story that much, do they? Because it's more so about Kathika and Susie and the editor.
Yeah.
The Doctor, Rose, and Adam. I mean, Adam actually is quite a big part of it, but the Doctor and Rose are kind of just sort of standby in that story. Interesting. It's weird.
Yeah.
Very weird. Anyway, Silver Nemesis. 2/3 of the way through. It's fine.
I've got a fun story. I kind of want you to keep this in. And I don't care that this has nothing to do with Silver Nemesis. I just kind of want this to be released somewhere. But when I first watched Dimensions of Time, I thought they literally took the fucking heads of William Hartnell and Patrick Troughton, undug them, severed them, and then just stuck them in. And then I realized, oh yeah, they're CGI. And then I discovered, wait, they're not. They're wax. Okay.
Wait, how old were you?
I was a weird child.
How old were you?
I don't remember. I wasn't young, but I was.
That's morbid. That.
I'm okay, guys.
Anyway, so let's move on to part 3, shall we?
I've got another little anecdote. Luckily, it's not as morbid as the last one. I remember when I first tried watching this story, it was uploaded on YouTube many years ago, 10 years ago or something. And I tried watching it, but I kind of stopped watching after Lady Painfort and Richard just ended up in the 20th century. I was just nah, I kind of don't want to watch this. And now I'm give me the silver Nemesis. Yum, 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 yum.
One thing I really don't like about the McCoy era is like when it goes does the part 1, part 2, part 3, like the font is just so generic. It makes it look like another
the title cards.
Yeah, but it makes it look like another show. Doesn't have that big bombastic part 3. It's just a little thing at the bottom.
It's kind of like the font they used for the early Matt Smith run.
A little bit. Except I know that there is a difference because I remember seeing what they were called. I think it was like this one.
They are very different fonts.
This one's called Universe Condensed Light, and then the one from the Matt Smith era is Sci-Fi Movie Poster Condensed. There you go.
Yeah.
It's a bit of trivia.
Yeah, they're both, but I think they've got similar vibes. They are different fonts. They have differences, but
I do love how the 70s had Futura Bold, and then the Russell era had Futura Book.
Yeah, because he knew. Also, Axiforma's fairly similar vibe.
To be fair, the Futura Book font is from the per tweet end credits anyway. I feel like Battlefield, they just looked at these characters and thought, yeah, what if that was the whole story?
Yeah, they just expanded on, like,
Yeah.
Ben Aronovich was like, you're ripping off my stuff, I'm gonna rip off your stuff. Yeah, but, like, they're easily I would say they're easily the best part about the story. They're the best part about the story that are unique to this story, i.e. not the Doctrine Ace.
Yeah, because the
Also,
Nazis
Ace
and the
is scared out of
Cybermen...
nowhere.
Why don't you go back to the TARDIS?
Yes.
You'll be safe there, whatever happens.
No chance, Doctor.
But even when he's trying to be tender, he's still mischievous. He's like, why don't you go back to the TARDIS? You'll
Yeah.
be safe there.
And she's like, bitch, no. Yeah, like, but she's scared out of nowhere, but it does produce a nice moment, but it's just like, that's artificially adding a nice moment in.
I can see why someone
Which
would
is
be...
an issue.
I can see why someone would be a bit upset by all the tonal shifts, like the jazz music, but I like it. I think it's funny.
Yeah. But the jazz music does serve a purpose. So I think it's justified. I'm just wondering if you figured out what the pitch for this story was yet. I really like the scene. It's silly, but in a good way. Like, it's silly, but I wouldn't have it any other way. It's 7 and Ace.
Here comes Nemesis.
Yeah, Nemesis is meant to
Actually,
look like
I take that back.
Lady
It doesn't
Painful.
look. It doesn't look like the Axons. It looks like the masks that the Clockwork droids wear in The Girl in the Fireplace.
But yeah, this.
Whoa.
If you didn't already notice, the statue. Oh wow! If you didn't already notice, the statue is meant to be resembling Lady Painfort.
And now, it shall be mine.
Yeah, you're right. She really is the highlight of the story, isn't she? And now, it shall be mine. Oh, Stephen Moffat stole that as well, because that's his Nightmare in Silver.
Take those gold coins, we may need them.
The Doctor plays chess with himself in that story.
Yeah.
Hack fraud.
Although I think the production team as a whole like stole aspects from the season in season 26, because like I feel like this was meant they treat this story as like the blueprints for what they kind of wanted, like settling gold scores, and then you've got Battlefield, which steals like the Lady Painfort idea, and then you've also got the Curse of Fenric, which utilizes chess in a much more grand thematic way.
Yeah.
Where are you folks headed?
To Windsor. And
What?
It surely does, honey. Jump right in.
I'm getting flashbacks to Delta and the Bannerman now.
It's like sometimes you think the story's actually getting better, and then it just throws in a curveball.
Oh my
And
god.
you go, no.
What is that?
As a matter of fact, I'm here on a visit checking out my roots.
'Tis wise with crops this time of year, Mom.
The themes of colonization, huh?
Yes.
Instagram post.
Beautiful.
It is only my present form.
Oh, Ace's bisexual awakening.
Which will be further developed in season
In Battlefield. Another thing Ben Aronovich stole.
by accident. And also, Ben Aronovich, like, until the season 26 Blu-ray was being recorded, he did not know that in Survival, Ace was meant to be in a gay relationship.
All things will soon be mine.
I guess they will, honey.
Time passed.
I actually...
Damn, these pommies gotta be funny. They got some funny way of speaking, don't they? Huh? I want to believe that this woman is related to Milo Clancy.
An ancestor of Milo Clancy.
Yeah. Just like I wanted to believe that Kel the councilman from Fear Her is an ancestor of whoever built the road in Gridlock, and whoever built the motorway.
Dorothea Remington did bribe away my cook.
Well, now let me see. Here I am, driving around, and I pick up someone who's researched my family tree.
We rise.
We surely do, honey.
This is just bliss. Like, that's just... Here's the thing, it's ironically good, but I think that was meant to be ironically good. That's just fucking funny.
I have a sudden urge to watch Daleks in Manhattan now, because that has Americans in it as well.
I think a lot of Doctor Who stories have Americans in it.
Yeah.
Like Delta and the Bannerman.
Laszlo.
And Rosa.
Laszlo.
So, Ace is shooting golden coins.
This reminds me of when the Ewoks shoot things at the Stormtroopers. With, like, you know... Correct. When they cast McCoy, they're like, oh yeah, Scottish people roll their R's, don't they?
Yeah, and McCoy's like, oh yeah, we do.
I'm getting a little, like... This is making me a little anxious because there's so much rust on that, and I'm like, oh, don't get tetanus.
Yeah. I was gonna make a joke, but I can't be arsed now.
You shall not pass! It's like Reservoir Dogs. Whoa! Okay.
I love that.
It's like Reservoir Dogs as well, they all shoot each other. You put that fucking gun away from my dad!
Forever.
Oh my gosh, this is just the Hand of Omega again.
Yep, and it happened just before he left 1963.
Yeah.
Or just after. Yes, Quentin Tarantino stole from Silver Nemesis, guys.
Yeah. Just Silver Nemesis. Everyone, no one fucking cares about it, so everyone just plagiarizes it. That's clever. Here's the thing: this story has good elements within it.
It has a lot of action in it.
Yeah, good action, well written action as well.
Mm.
And that's the story's strength. It's just all the in-between bits are a bit funky.
Hmm.
Sorry. Have you never wondered where he came from? Who he is?
Nobody knows who the Doctor is.
Except me.
He knows who the Timeless Child is. Ooh.
That can be an interpretation with current canon.
He's a Time Lord, I know that.
Well, Doctor.
So Chris Chibnall stole from the story as well.
Yeah. Silver Nemesis, the gift that keeps on giving.
Mm-hmm.
Or rather the gift that keeps on being taken
It is
from.
the source of all fan fiction.
No, no, it's the source of all fiction. This is where fiction peaked and everything derived from.
I see. There's a reason why it looks like her.
Yeah, that was weird.
Those.
Yeah. The story begins and ends with nipples.
Ah.
The Cybermen all simultaneously came.
This is Remembrance of the Daleks. Oh!
To 1638.
That's nice of them.
So you said the Nemesis, just like you nailed the Daleks.
Exactly how he nailed the Daleks. Like, word for word.
Still one question you haven't answered, Professor. Doctor, who are you?
That was a bit funny.
So, yeah. So, you know when people say this is shit? I won't disagree with them. I mean, I will disagree with them, but I won't challenge them. Because I personally think it's fun. And it's, it's well written at points, not at others.
I
But
will
hey,
say the last 10 seconds were very heavy-handed.
Yeah.
Professor, Doctor, who are you? That was very Chibnall. That was very Chip.
Yeah.
I feel like I got a flashback to the Series 13 trailer when Yaz is just like, "There's something you're hiding."
But I think it's a good story. Not amazing.
That
But,
was
enjoyable.
That was Silver Nemesis.
It was indeed. What were your thoughts? Because I've basically already said mine.
It was okay. I don't know. I don't really. It's not like it went in one area or the other, because there was things to do and talk about, but it just
Yeah, like it's something that can make you think. It just doesn't always.
It's very simple, isn't it? It's purely just Nemesis is the plot device. 4 factions gotta find it, and then the Doctor wins. There's 3 of them lose.
Yeah.
But there's a bit of funky jazz, and there's that weird woman in the car, and she talks to the old. They had that funny conversation, and I don't know.
Yeah.
It's all right. But it's just a bit of fluff, really.
Yeah.
I don't see
Yeah.
what the hate's all about. I feel like the hate's a bit of an overreaction.
It is overblown in my opinion.
Yeah.
Like it's. To me, it's like Delta and the Bannerman, except that's more camp than what this was.
I
This had elements of camp,
I do think there was a better way to handle the Cartmel Master Plan stuff. I think you could have done it without making it so blunt.
Yeah.
Like it was because this is quite a serious thing they're setting up here, and the way they deliver it is almost funny.
Yeah. Just like, have you ever wondered who the Doctor is?
Yes, I know he's a
like...
Time Lord, and she's like, no.
I mean, like the way they handled it in Remembrance when the Doctor was explaining the Hand of Omega, and he was like, and he was saying, yeah, it's something we did. He said we, and you can interpret that to mean we as in the Time Lords.
I think.
And then when Ace caught on to that, he said they. But like in a way, that's like intended to be him hiding his tracks to say that he had something to do with it in the ancient times.
I also think that
So that's subtle.
That element of the Cartmel Master Plan, it's because I'm watching this for the first time, already having seen the Timeless Children. The actual answer behind that mystery now in my head is a lot more lame than it would have been if I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Because the Timeless Children reveal is very bog standard. In fact, it's quite crap. And the fact that now that I know that what that is alluding to eventually is revealed to be that, it's kind of disappointing. But if I remove that and I just see it like a mystery, it is interesting. Though I just think the dialogue
and
is
the Cardinal Master Plan was always meant to just be making the Doctor more enigmatic. That's it. Chibnall doesn't understand.
No.
He doesn't understand why many things in the show's past worked. He just wants to do them.
That's because he sees a lot of things at a surface level and plays them at a very simple binary, and it kind of kills.
Yeah.
It kills all of those fine details that actually make the show enjoyable to watch. And it's a real shame. Like, he says he's a fan, and I'm sure he is, but I don't think he quite gets it. I don't think he quite gets the fine edges of what makes the show what it is. I think maybe it's his child mind that watched the show when he was very young, understanding what happens at a very surface level and interpreting the show as that.
Which is weird, because that's like the criticism he gave to Pip and Jane. Like, right to their fucking face.
Yeah. Even though I actually like Terror of the Vervoids more than pretty much most of his stories, so...
Same?
Yeah.
Terror of the Vervoids is actually really...
Because it's actually charming.
Yeah. And although the story itself isn't that grand, it's, you know, it's well written and entertaining.
Yeah.
Chris Chibnall stories are mostly bland and boring.
Anyway, so like the Silver Nemesis, like it was watchable. You know, it was fun.
Yeah.
It's nothing too special. It's not very complex or deep. It's a little bit derivative. The Cybermen aren't the best. But it's fine. I don't think it's a bad story
again,
at all.
I feel like
fine.
a lot of the complaints to do with the Cybermen are overblown.
Yeah.
Because although they are mostly fodder, they do fight back pretty nicely.
Yeah, they're fine. Like, there's nothing.
And to be honest, the focus isn't on them. It's on the Nemesis.
Exactly.
So.
Yeah, I like how the story
people may
is.
think that's inherently a problem, and that's fair. But
I like how they call it the Silver Nemesis, because there's a thing called Nemesis, and then the silver is the Cyberman.
Yeah. Basically, just to say, hey, look, it's the silver anniversary of Doctor Who. It's 25 years.
Indeed. But yeah, it's you know, it is what it is. It's a fine story.
Yeah, like this isn't a Four to Doomsday situation. We're literally there's.
Oh yeah,
like,
I definitely think that Four to Doomsday is miles better than this. And I don't know if that's a hot take or not. It might be.
The thing is, people don't care about either.
Yeah.
So, what's next on the agenda after we've basically just exhausted our?
Because I don't have a lot of. I don't have much in-depth thoughts in regards to characters and plot because it was very simple. It was very straightforward.
I mean, what were your thoughts on the characters? Because the plot was very simple, and there's not much you can say.
The neo-Nazis were very underdeveloped. I think if this was a four-parter, you could have fleshed it out more. The Cybermen were fine, not very powerful, but I enjoyed them.
They weren't very powerful, but I feel like their offensive capabilities and their defensive capabilities just neutralized each other.
Like you said, the most enjoyable thing about the story was the other half, which was the characters from the 1600s and the Doctor and Ace. They were the better half.
Yes.
I think if this was a four-parter, you could have fleshed out the Cybermen and the neo-Nazis, and you could have made it a bit more balanced.
Yeah, the Cybermen didn't need much more fleshing out. They were good as an element, but less good as an actual, character.
I think it's interesting
the
that
have been good previously.
I think it's interesting that I described the music as arcadey because I feel like the plot for this is very video game-like. This felt like it could be a game. Like if there was a Doctor Who adventure game, Silver Nemesis could be one. I think.
I don't think that's a bad thing.
Oh yeah, not necessarily. No,
but at the same time, I feel like it's all about how it was handled, and this was kind of handled a bit messily. The execution, I don't know if this was something in the script or in the editing, but it does feel a bit messy. And I can enjoy a good mess, and this is one of those, but it's just like, if something's messy, it can only go so far in my enjoyment.
Yeah. I think this is far from the worst Cyberman story. I think this is far from the worst Cyberman story. I think I prefer this over Closing Time. I prefer this over Nightmare in Silver. I prefer this over
Same.
Dark Water, Death
Same.
in Heaven. I prefer this over Ascension and Cybermen. I think this is
Same.
like this is a lot better than some people say.
I prefer this to, I think, 2 classic. Actually, no, 3 classic Cybermen.
There's only
stories.
obviously
Although-
there's one Cyberman story from Classico I haven't seen, and that's the Wheel in Space. So I would have to disregard that.
Yeah.
In terms of everything else, this is probably my least favorite Cyberman story from Classico, but that doesn't mean that I think it's bad. It's just my least favorite of the ones that I like.
I would say this is fairly on par with Attack of the Cybermen. I just think that this has more things going for it, while Attack of the Cybermen I would just say is on par, only because I really like the Sixth Doctor and Perry. Meanwhile here, it's messy and cancels it.
Attack of the Cybermen for me is a notch above this, and one of the biggest reasons is because I really like the character of Lytton. I loved him in Resurrection, and I really like him in that one as well. That's one big element
valid.
that adds to it. And also, it, like you said, the Sixth Doctor and Perry, very entertaining. Though that said,
well, I think this is a notch above that because of all the elements that we said that were good here.
Yeah, that said though, the McCoy and Ace I did enjoy.
Yeah,
but this is very much on that sort of. This is one of my mid-tier Cybermen stories. Like I would have this alongside, you know, the Next Doctor and Revenge of the Cybermen. Like it's sort of in that realm for me, rather than being one of the worst or one of the best.
Can I just say, I prefer this to Wheel in Space. I'm not gonna explain what happens in Wheel in Space, of course, for your benefit, Connor. Yeah. But what I'm gonna say is that I think Wheel in Space is just a little bit worse than both this and Attack. Because I don't find as much charm in it. But it's I still think it's okay. I still enjoy it quite a bit. And Revenge of the Cybermen I do not enjoy. In fact, I would put that on the same tier as Closing Time. Like I would say they I would give them the same score.
Okay, so that's
watch Closing Time.
That's a big hot take for me.
That's my hot take.
That's a big hot take for me because I would give
Revenge of the Cybermen just annoyed me.
Really?
But it wasn't that bad. It just annoyed me with how dull it was.
See, I really like Revenge of the Cybermen. I really enjoyed that story.
I think most people's complaints on the Cybermen in color are literally just Revenge of the Cybermen. That
also
like people say it's Silver Nemesis, but that's just stuff it inherits from Revenge.
I'll put in perspective how much of a hot take that is for me. I would give Revenge of the Cybermen a 7.5, and I would give Closing Time a 2. So there's a big
I'd give them both a 5. I'd give them both a 5.
So you dislike Revenge of the Cybermen more than me, and you like Closing Time more than me.
Yeah.
You series,
I just think they're
Series
average.
6 simp is what you are.
I wouldn't call myself a Series 6 simp. A Series 6 defender, yeah, but a simp implies that I love it. No, I'm a McCoy simp. And this is why I probably give this story a bit too much good. But this, all I can say is, this is the third McCoy story that I haven't changed my opinion on. It's stayed the same. Everything that has changed for the better thus far, and I hope that keeps going. But there's only 2 stories that, unless if they get worse, which they won't because they're Greatest Show and Curse of Fenric,
so
they won't change.
On the 2014 DWM poll, this ranked below Nightmare in Silver.
No.
No.
Although I can see why, because there was a lot of hype around Nightmare in Silver, and look, the Cybermen are awesome in this one.
I think also because the poll happened right after Series 7, it was fresh in people's minds, and a lot of people that are fans of that era would have been voting in that poll.
And that's why there was still that hype. Yeah, and that's why there was still that hype around it as well. So, I'm not mad. I'm just disappointed. Yeah.
And in terms of having an American character in it, I guess this is the only connection I can make, and an iconic villain. This ranks above Daleks in Manhattan.
Interesting. I may not agree with that because I actually quite like Daleks in Manhattan.
I do too.
I also like this.
I think
I might.
I think Daleks in Manhattan
might
is severely underrated. Like
yes,
criminally so.
I'd say this is 2. I'd say this is 2, but I think Daleks in Manhattan.
I think
is
Daleks in Manhattan even more
criminally
so.
underrated.
Like Daleks in Manhattan has so much going for it, and no one likes it. It's so weird.
Yeah, everyone calls this a black sheep of the McCoy era, and I would say it's not too strong, but at the same time, it's like I would say it is a black sheep for McCoy era standards, but the standards are pretty fucking high.
Well, that's kind of how I feel with.
I don't think Daleks.
Well, the thing is with Daleks
But
in
Daleks
Manhattan,
Manhattan, I don't think is that.
Like the thing is that if Daleks Manhattan were in a worse season, it would probably be one of my favorites. But because it's in Series 3, it's surrounded by so much greatness that I'm like, well, it is one of the less great
it's like
ones.
Smith and Jones, Gridlock, although I've not
Human
seen
Nature,
those two
Family
in a
of
while,
Blood.
I do know. Boom, yeah, Blink.
Yeah, Utopia.
You know?
So much going on there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yes. Silver Nemesis being ranked as one of the worst, I'm not sure. I think it's tough with Classic Who. It's tough because there's so many stories that I love that I feel like Silver Nemesis by default would end up being ranked pretty low. But that's not because I dislike it. It's purely just because there's such a high volume of Classic Who stories I rate so highly that they would just end up being ranked above this one. That makes sense.
You're more friendly. You're more forgiving towards a load of Classic Who than I am. Like. Not saying I dislike Classic Who, just for the record, viewers, I am what some may say a Classic Who elitist. That makes me sound like a smug prick. No, I do generally like most of Classic Who, most of the RTD era, some of Moffat, some of Chibnall, you know, but largely not Moffat and Chibnall. But still, Classic Who is my bread and butter for the most part. But the McCoy era is my filling. But there are quite a few stories, like not many from the 60s, a few from the 70s, a few from the 80s that I dislike. Like, it's not an exhaustive list of stories that I'm not really a fan of in Classic Who, but this is far from being even close to that list for me.
It's funny because at the time of recording, I've only got 2 stories that I didn't like, but by the time this video comes out, I wonder if that number will increase and by how much.
Well, it definitely will increase, because I know you're not a fan of at least one story that's coming up for you.
Yeah, I mean, it is, to be fair, miracles can happen, but somehow I doubt it with that one. The one that you're talking about, I highly doubt that, but you never know. By the time this video comes out, I would have already seen it again, so I wonder what my thoughts are on Worries of the Deep. Go on Twitter to find out. I'm sure I would have talked.
Specify yet again that this is as of recording, not as of when this goes out. But what would you give Worries of the Deep right now? You can correct it on screen if you really want to, if your opinion has changed.
So based on my last viewing, it was a 2.
Same.
But if it's changed, I will put on screen what my rating changed to. This is written by Kevin Clark. This is the only story he ever wrote, apart from obviously the novelization for it.
Yeah. Which Harry nearly gave me. But I just refused to pay for it. Because I was wanting to save money, and I was just like, yeah, no, I want it, but like, don't give it to me because I don't want to pay for it.
Yeah.
Just to clarify.
The thing is, because this is the only thing he's written, and a lot of it's homogenized, I can't really comment on his writing style. Like
I feel like you need to watch the extended edition to get a more.
Yeah, like he's kind of just a lesser Ben Aronovich, isn't he? I can see why they chose him though, because he does kind of have his writing style does kind of have that McCoy era flavor to it. So I guess.
And his pitch was very much Cartmel Master Plan. Let's just say.
And it is directed by Chris Clow, who also did Terror of the Vervoids, The Ultimate Foe, Delta and the Bannerman, Dragonfire, and The Happiness Patrol. I think
all of which are well-directed stories.
I think The Happiness Patrol might be his best in terms of direction. That story looks amazing.
Oh, yeah. I think Chris Clow did the best of what he was given here.
Yeah.
So I think he's a good director.
Yeah, like he had, location work and cheap costumes and all that, and he did fine.
Yeah. I would say there's only one. Like, any shot where the Cyberman ship is flying looks a bit shoddy, and the one where it's landing in that.
Yeah, some of the. I think if I were to choose one story to get a CGI remaster on the Blu-ray, it's this one, into season 25.
I think they should do CGI remasters for this and Remembrance, but not do much. Yeah. Like, it would all be one project, but it's literally just not... They don't need much, but I do think they both need touch-ups.
I think you could get away with not doing Remembrance if you had a choice. But with Silver Nemesis, I do think you absolutely need to do this one.
Yeah. I feel like with Remembrance, I feel like it's more so that would make a good story better. Meanwhile, this, I'm just like... Ooh, yeah, no, fix that.
But yeah, I thought his direction was really solid. I don't have anything bad to say about it. I think it just worked. I really like some of how he did the action scenes. I think especially that's one of his biggest strengths is the action scenes.
Yeah, but also anything involving intercutting between Seven and Ace and another party.
Yeah,
was I think that's more so the editing and also mainly what McCoy and Aldred were doing. Was really good.
I think one scene in particular that I thought...
I think they're the highlights.
One scene in particular I really liked the direction for was the one where Ace walked up that sort of railing, I don't know what you would call it, but it was in that building, and you got like a really good sense of the height.
One scene that was very well done was that scene with the Fez.
Oh yes, of course, because that was panning through lots of objects there.
Yeah.
And
and also the scenes where they're jamming the cyber transmissions.
And as we noted, Moffat stole that for the Big Bang, didn't he?
Yeah, he did.
The Fez and the Moth.
He did. That's been a copy pasta for memes, for years.
Yeah.
Memes, but it's been around for years.
That's
like McCoy did it first.
The Big Bang is one of those stories where I've never really understood what the hype is all about. I've tried to, but for some reason I just can't figure out why people love that story so much.
I've not seen it in years, so I can't comment.
Honestly, it's not that I even hate it. I just have absolutely nothing to say. It just goes completely over my head, that story. I don't know why.
Yeah.
I think that's just a general disconnect I have with Series 5. I don't know why it is. I just
yeah.
I just sort of shrug my shoulders at it, really. Apart from a couple of stories, I do love Vincent the Doctor and Amy's Choice.
Yeah. Yeah, those two are the two.
But the ones that are actually written by Stephen Moffat, I'm very just like, yes.
I like the first two.
Well, Eleventh Hour and
yes,
Beast
it's
Below.
a hot take. I like the Beast. Yeah. It's a hot take that I like the Beast Below. I don't love it, but I like it.
See, the thing is that you know me, I'm not big on the whole children thing with the Moffat era, so that's a real big turn off for me.
Yeah.
But to be fair,
by children.
God,
good.
Don't say that.
Good, you're not a nonce.
But the children thing gets a lot more extreme as Smith era goes on, so it's it's fairly.
Yeah, I can actually tolerate it in Series 5.
Yeah, it's fairly harmless. It's a bit sort of on the edge, whereas once you get to
Series 6 is also on the edge for me, but Series 7 onwards, no.
I can't do Series 6's children's stuff. It's overbearing for me.
And
then obviously you get Series 7.
Series 7 is toxic.
When you get to Time of the Doctor and it's all about what the Doctor means to children, it's just like, oh no, stop.
I can appreciate the idea.
So hang on. There's that bit at the end of Closing Time when he goes to say goodbye to the children, and it's meant to be this really serious scene of I'm about to die.
That.
And then there's that one bit where the child's like, I liked his hat.
What the fuck? Here's the thing. I may think Closing Time is just, it's kind of there. Because I do think there are strengths and weaknesses. That falls into the latter if it falls into anything. No.
All of the foreshadowing in that story is just false drama. It's so lost. Yeah. But yeah, the direction for Silver Nemesis, it was good.
Good, yeah.
The music by Kef McCulloch, who is an interesting composer to say the least. You know, it was
sometimes he works, sometimes he doesn't.
It was very
I'd say
arcadey.
he worked.
It was very arcadey,
But I'd
which
say it worked. I think it was a very functional soundtrack.
Well, I think it's because it's so arcadey, it kind of fits that video game-like plot in a way. I don't know if that was intentional, but
Yeah.
they kind of blended together well for me. So the tone was right, but on the whole, Kef McCulloch isn't my favorite. No, there's other 80s sound designers that I vastly prefer. Like I love
Mark Ayres and Dominic Glynn are just better.
Mark Ayres, Dominic Glynn, Roger Lim, Paddy Kingsland, Peter Howell.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I was watching Mordred Undead last night, and the difference in quality of soundtrack between this story and that is miles.
Yeah, like it's the actual technology used isn't that different. It's just the style,
the composition, I think, is what it is.
Yeah.
I think honestly, my favorite like bit of music that Kef McCulloch actually did for the show is probably the opening title theme.
No,
No,
I disagree. My favorite Kef McCulloch music in Doctor Who might be the Paradise Tower soundtrack, only because he didn't have enough time to fuck it up. He had to do it in a week, so he didn't have time to refine it, or in my opinion, trash it, like he does with most of his other soundtracks. Like his Remembrance one works because it actually hits. It hits. It's good. Yeah, but then all of his other ones are just kind of like everything composed for Time of the Rani just feels like it's whimpering.
I haven't heard it yet.
Delta and the Bannerman's just...
Oh, I have watched that one. Yeah, that's
whole.
crazy. That's off the wall. But to be fair, that's not just
that's
not just Kef McCulloch. That's the whole
apparently
story.
Half the soundtrack. No, apparently half the soundtrack was just taken from the BBC library.
Oh.
So that's why it was kind of funky. Probably because he didn't have enough time to like actually compose music for Delta and the Bannerman, because they just got him in last minute for Paradise Towers. So that's probably why.
But you know, Kef McCulloch's music for Silver Nemesis was fine. It was all good.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm glad that they reserved the better composers for the stories that needed them, like Happiness Patrol and
with Dominic Glynn and
Dominic Glynn. It's just
greatest shows Mark Ayres soundtrack.
Those stories needed those more eerie soundtracks, so I think they made the right choices.
Dominic Glynn was perfect for Happiness Patrol.
Oh, absolutely.
Because he would have given the Happiness Patrol their own theme. Just imagine whenever they're patrolling, it's like that wouldn't have worked.
But no, the whole vibe of Happiness Patrol, including the music direction and just the story itself, is one that I feel like needs to be captured more in stories. Really, I love it. Almost like
Happiness Patrol is like really fucking good.
Oh yeah, it is.
For context, viewers, I watched it yesterday and I'm like, I love it more than I did last time.
Yes, that's right, viewers. The Candyman is dope.
It's like the Candyman is probably, in my opinion, the weakest element of the story now. I still love him because he just exists. That's it.
Honestly,
do I need to explain why I love the Candyman?
I know. This might be a hot take. I think the Candyman's kind of scary.
Yeah, I think the Candyman's design is actually...
The Happiness Patrol invokes a Sacron horror, and that to me is quite scary. It's almost like the reverse of the Moffat era in the sense that it's using that same sickly sweet happiness to make it scary rather than make it joyful. And everyone knows how I'm not a fan of sickly sweet happiness done unironically, because it just turns me off. Whereas when it's done for horror, it's the reverse, where it really works for me because I find that stuff so unsettling that it becomes scary.
Yeah. What do you think of the Big Finish redesign of the Candyman in Ravenous 1?
I haven't actually listened to Ravenous 1 yet.
Yeah, but have you seen what the Candyman looks like?
No, I'll have a look if you want.
He's on the cover of Ravenous 1. for the viewers at home, either look it up or either Connor will show it, or if he can't be bothered, which is valid.
Oh, so it looks more like a person.
Just look up. Yeah, because that was apparently meant to be like the original design.
Okay.
And his face is powdered, like powdered sugar, and his and like because he's meant to be a robot, like he's hard boiled but with like powdered.
He looks like a for some reason he looks like a Batman villain.
I get that. I get that vibe, actually, yeah.
And also, I guess you could say Paul McGann is kind of like the most Batman-esque Doctor, isn't he? Like, in terms of his personality.
Well, at this point in his life, sure. Yeah. Except, yeah, like... But do you want to know what I find very ironic?
Like, I've never actually listened to anything from the leather era of 8th Doctor, but am I right in saying that there's a kind of Batman-esque vibe to it? Because that's kind of what I get from looking at it. At the posters.
He's more depressed, and Paul McGann just kind of doesn't bother acting anymore.
Okay.
So, yeah. Something ironic about Ravenous is that in the first box set, that the Candyman's like the big bad villain at the end, but like the previous episode, or not the previous episode, the first episode of the box set had fucking Churchill in it.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, but wasn't the whole point of that Happiness Patrol anti-conservatism, specifically anti-Thatcherism? But, like, because Churchill wasn't necessarily the nicest of blokes. Like, he won the war, we all gotta respect that, but, like, he did a lot of shady shit.
Yeah, but my fan service, though.
I guess.
It's funny, because he only appears in, like, shit stories as well. So weird. Like, on TV.
Well, well, yeah.
I find that
apparently,
interesting.
The 7th Doctor audio with him in it is apparently actually alright, because the Churchill teams up with a monk, and at the end, Churchill feels betrayed by the 7th Doctor.
Yeah.
And it actually fucking works. Like, it sounds like, conceptually, it sounds like it really fucking works.
Like, genuinely, like, Victory of the Daleks and The Wedding of River Song, for me, are, like, two of the worst Matt Smith stories. And he's in them.
They're not good. They're not good.
No, they're not.
No.
When I because in my most recent podcast I did live stream, I talked about Rise of the Cybermen and Closing Time, and during Closing Time I was constantly going on about how the foreshadowing for Wedding of River Song is completely and utterly pointless. And I just kept on saying, reminder guys, the Wedding of River Song is a pile of shite.
Here's the thing, like, I don't tend to think of that as flaws of the story I'm currently watching. They're more so flaws of the story that does do the failure.
I get what you mean, but I think I've developed a bit of a standard where a mystery is only as good as its answer. So that's kind of... That does damage things, but... obviously, depending on the context...
I personally think...
It depends on the context. It depends how much the questions ride on the answers. Sometimes... There are things that have a sufficient amount of answers, and then the later on will change things. But what I'm talking about is when everything rides on the answer. For me, that really is dependent on the answer. I feel like I can't credit a question if the answer isn't sufficient. And I have that with the Doctor's death arc in Series 6. I feel like the questions it's asking doesn't actually provide any potential avenue to answer it sufficiently.
Yeah, I think about it differently, but I mean it is valid. What you're that's a valid way to view the arc.
I also very much believe in rewatchability, and that's one thing that I think Series 6 suffers from, is that you can't really rewatch any of that foreshadowing with the same level of tension, because you just know that he's just going to be a robot in a suit at the end. Yeah. And it's something that I really... It's something that I really don't like about the Day of the Doctor retcon either, because it means when you rewatch Series 1, 2, 3, 4,
Series
whatever...
1, yeah.
Like, when you see the scene where he says, I watched it happen, I made it happen, it now comes across as, well, that's what he thinks happened, but he doesn't know. And it changes the context, and I don't like that.
That's exactly why I don't have that mindset, because I want Series 1 is great. But, like, the mindset I have is... Although, yes, that is definitely a factor that should definitely be thought of, I do feel like, in my opinion, to me, when I'm watching something happen, I don't think it's necessarily about For me, it's not about the mystery, it's how the mystery affects what's going on in the moment. And with something like Possible Astronaut, yeah, that's fine. And Closing Time, that's fine. It's just, you know, the answers to the mystery were so fucking bad. So it's a bad story arc, but the season as a whole, I feel like, is strong enough for me to go, it's an okay season.
I remember one of the biggest examples of that was when I first watched Fugitive of the Jadoon when it came out. As I said, this whole story rides on the answers, doesn't it? It's asking so many questions. It's like, well, if the answers aren't good, then can I actually say that this story is good? Can I? Probably not.
Yeah. No. But anyway, speaking of a good story, Silver Nemesis, well, I think it's good. Not great, it's not amazing, but I think it's good.
It's definitely one of my lesser McCoy stories in terms of like what I prefer, I'd say.
For me, it's in the bottom half. Then again, the top half is probably going to be all 10 out of 10 for me. And then there's going to be a couple... Well, I say a couple... Yeah, a couple of 9s.
Whoa, okay, so I'm reading the trivia now. Nicholas Courtney is in the large crowd scene in the castle, apparently.
As a cameo.
Yeah, what the hell? That's crazy. Yeah. So Ben Aronovich stole that as well in Battlefield.
He stole the Brigadier. Then again, Ben Aronovich has this obsession with the Brigadier. Like, he tried making the Brigadier's fucking illegitimate daughter character in Remembrance.
And then...
Or something. And then that ancestor who happens to have the same name nearly became companion in Transit.
Ben Aronovich created 2 new Brigadiers for his stories. Crazy.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's there. Graham Curry, who's the writer of Happiness Patrol, was also in there, and Anthony Ainley was asked to be one of the tourists. Wow.
But I'm guessing he wasn't wanting to do it unless he was like, "It was me, the master." It's been weird not seeing Anthony Ainley for a while for me.
This is the only anniversary series that isn't a multi-Doctor special. I would have loved if they'd I think if they were to make this an anniversary special, they got John Pertwee in, that would have been a really good fit for this story, I reckon.
Yeah. Have John Pertwee be like one of the Nazis in disguise and go, "Actually, I'm not a Nazi."
I feel like you would have had to definitely make it... You definitely would have had to make it 4 parts, though, if that was okay.
Yeah. Still.
Otherwise it would have been completely overstuffed.
I'm waiting for you to react to like.
Although it also would have been insane to have a Cartmel master plan question asking story with the 3rd Doctor in it. That just would have been so bizarre.
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Because
this wasn't more.
Because like the 3rd Doctor, as much as I love the 3rd Doctor, there's pretty much almost no mystery around his character. Is there? Like he really doesn't hide anything. He's very straight to the point. And like,
in fact, we learn.
In fact, it's almost the opposite, where he's trying to urge people to understand his past. He's just like, "Well, of course it was true, Joe. I used to travel all around the universe in my TARDIS." Oh, so the Nazi characters are credited as skinheads in the Radio Time. Interesting.
I guess that's censorship.
Apparently the
only
stereo that they were using was originally going to have Zygon-like speakers.
Huh.
The gasworks site takes place on the site that would become the site for the Millennium Dome. An outtake from this story sees Sylvester McCoy tripping over a bush and then trying to stab it with his umbrella.
That's just something McCoy just does.
I must take revenge on all my adversaries.
Especially that bush. I'll be back for you.
I think this is why the 7th Doctor is so like malleable to comedy and drama, because you can take his kind of crazy, wild, absurd character traits in so many different directions.
Yeah, both comedy and drama.
Like that's something I love about that scene in Survival, where he's just like, we fight like animals, we die like animals. Like, it's both very serious and touching, but also quite funny as well.
And then immediately not, but it works.
I know. Just rides that line so well.
Yeah.
Apparently the policeman that was killed at the crash site was going to be killed by a swarm of Cybermats.
That would have been cool.
I can see that happening in my head. I can see them, like, they just jump and they attach to him like glue, and he falls over and goes, "Ah!" It's like a really dramatic fall over.
I wish that happened. Yeah. I wish that happened.
Oh wow, Prince Edward was asked to be in this story by John Nathan Turner, but the royal family wrote a letter in response declaring that would be inappropriate for this appearance to happen. So they just had a fake Queen Elizabeth in it there with their dogs.
Yeah. Heck, at least they didn't ask Prince Andrew. Because this story wouldn't have aged well if he was like, oh, sure, I'll do it.
Mm-hmm. Kevin Clark lived 7 minutes away from the TV centre and had 7 minutes to come up with the idea.
Mm-hmm.
He pitched the idea with Doctor Who. We don't know who he is. So he was amazed that JNT and Andrew Cartmel didn't know either. Eventually he summarised the way that he saw the Doctor. Here we go. Well, he's basically God, which terrified Nathan Turner and Cartmel. Nathan Turner eventually replied, well, you can do it, but you can't say it.
Yep. Did you get the vibes that the Doctor was God in this story? Like, this is what Silver Nemesis is truly about.
Yes, I'm sure in his
God.
leisure time, God sits upside down on a hill listening to jazz music, getting an erect brain.
to have an erect brain. God needs that erect brain to truly be godlike.
I feel like Kevin Clark's interpretation for the Doctor is a bit less nuanced than the truth.
Yeah.
Like, I think he sees the Doctor much more, like, unironically like this than how I view the Doctor. I think, look, I know everyone's gonna turn to me and say that I'm a massive simp, but I really like the way Russell T Davies framed it in the sense of, it's like, it's not that the Doctor is a god, but it's the sense that he could be used in that capacity if given the power. I like the way he uses it as more so like a hubris rather than an actual the Doctor is God. You know what I mean?
I think Cartmel tried to have yes, the Doctor is basically a god, but more using that as an enigmatic kind of thing as the storytelling device, and it's more subtle, and that's what I like about McCoy era and how it tries to do that.
Yeah,
and that's something that I'm not really much of a fan of in the RTD era, like deifying the Doctor, because then that just made Moffat do it, and that made Chibnall do it. And it's just no.
See, I have things to say about that because I feel like there's a lot of subtext that's overlooked with what Russell T Davies wrote.
I feel like Russell T Davies did. I don't think he did it awfully. It's just not my cup of tea.
Sure.
I think there's a difference between I think this is bad and I just don't think this works for me, and what I like about the show.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, I feel like the way Andrew Cartmel did it was like the older I've gotten, the more I'm understanding the McCoy era and just all the decisions made in Doctor Who, and I feel like the decisions made in the McCoy era.
Yeah.
The more this is how I've learned more about the Cartmel master plan after The Timeless Children came out, because Andrew Cartmel was like, this is shit.
Yeah.
Because he admitted he would have done something similar, but he wouldn't have answered those questions. He literally did it to make the Doctor more enigmatic.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Chris Chibnall didn't.
It seems like each, of the past 4 showrunners have had different takes on how to handle this specific thing. And I think it's come with very different angles, with different mixed results. There are some areas where they handle it where I really like the idea and how it's executed, and there's some areas where I don't.
Yeah.
It just really depends on how it's handled. It's a very difficult thing to navigate, because you're dealing with a character that originally was not intended to be like this, and you're retconning that scenario. I think the way you handle it, it's important to try and handle it in a way that will make sense and will be effective, rather than being a bit too... I do think that... I do disagree with Kevin Clark's interpretation of the Doctor. I think that it was good that Andrew Cartman and J&T toned it down and did it in their way more so than his. Because I think if Kevin Clark got his way, I think it would have really damaged the story. Would have damaged the character. Mm-hmm. Like, just straight up saying that the Doctor is God is not poggers.
Yeah. This is not poggers!
Yeah. And it's just like, one of the reasons why I hate The Timeless Children is the fact that Chris Chibnall basically was just like, well, the Doctor is just the Adam and Eve of Gallifrey, isn't he? Wasn't she, I should say.
Yeah.
It's like, well, no, shouldn't be like that. It's a bit silly.
I mean, because the thing is, I don't mind the idea of there being a timeless child, and I don't mind there being...
I really like how
Yeah.
Toby Whithouse handles it, actually. That's one thing I will say, as I really like how Toby Whithouse handles the Doctor's God complex. I think it's very, very well done.
In the God complex.
Yeah, mainly that one, but I would also say in stories like School Reunion as well, and A Town Called Mercy. Really well done.
Okay.
It's subtly hinted at in The Vampires of Venice, but they don't really go into it much. It's very brief. And I don't remember it being in Under the Lake. I might have to rewatch that story and see if there is anything. I can't remember. I guess you could say, like...
He's engineering a paradox.
I guess you could say, like, him saying, I have a duty of care is kind of angel-like in a way, but that was more of a Moffat line anyway.
He's got, like... And he is kind of, like, engineering a paradox, so I guess he's the god of that, but...
I have no idea.
Yeah.
No idea.
Yeah.
Anyway. I think, actually, one of my favourite things that Russell T Davies did with this sort of mystery around us, and sort of this whole thing we're discussing, is how you have that line in Last of the Time Lords where Martha says he never asks to be thanked, and then in The Waters of Mars he says, is anyone going to thank me? I love that line.
Ooh,
I love that line.
Oh yeah. Oh my god, Connor, stop converting everyone into RTDs. Or continue it. I don't fucking care, actually. But, like, you're doing it again.
It's just so good, though. It's so good. I can't help it. It's so
Intentionally
good.
or unintentionally.
It's just...
Yeah.
Oh, no, I definitely think that was intentional.
I mean, it was Russell both times, probably.
Oh, well, it was, because he wrote Last of the Time
sure.
Lords and he co-wrote Waters of Mars. And I know that,
Yeah.
I know that Russell T Davies wrote everything to do with the Time Lord Victorious. Phil Ford was mainly to do with, like, the Flood and the sidecast.
Yeah, just the actual main plot. It's
But the character drama with the Doctor is all Russell, apparently.
Yeah. And I'm not surprised. It's good character drama.
Well, it is my favourite New Who episode, after all. For many, many, many reasons, and that's one of them.
The thing is, Midnight took over Waters of Mars for me. But
That's
Waters
my
of Mars
second
is
favourite.
Still up there. Well, there you go.
They're both top tier.
I probably shouldn't do that hand symbol. Apparently, it means like white supremacy or something like that. So I'm gonna thumbs up instead because I'm not a white supremacist.
Yeah.
Because like I tried doing an okay symbol, but now apparently that's not good. So apologies if I've offended anybody with that symbol. That wasn't my intention.
David Banks' last appearance as the Cyber Leader. I feel like David Banks appearing in New Who would have been pretty cool. Like when you get to like, I think especially once you get to like the redesigned ones, like in Signals Who. Like I feel like Ascension of the Cybermen would have been a good time to bring David Banks back.
Yeah, because the Orion Wars. But I have this idea, like, John Lumick could have been played by David Banks.
That's true.
That would have been cool.
Although, to be fair, you would have had to have removed Roger Lloyd Pack, and I wouldn't want to do that.
Well, Roger Lloyd Pack was fucking brilliant.
But how will you do
So-
that from beyond the grave?
Beyond the grave. I love. But yeah.
Such a good story. Fuck the Stranger's
Any
takes on
more?
that.
Yeah, fuck that. Fuck their takes. Any more stuff to do with?
David Banks felt the Cybermen weren't served well here. He felt that the gold had become an
And
angle,
that's valid.
and they looked weak. The writer didn't understand the Cybermen, so he used them as a metaphor for Nazis. The gold thing is quite a controversial thing, isn't it? Like, some people like it and some people don't. I feel like it has mixed results. I think my favourite use...
It was handled well in Earthshock.
Yeah, I think that's my favourite use of it is when they use Adric's Gold Star. I think that's a really lovely way of tying that back into full circle.
Yeah.
But I think the golden arrows, like, I don't mind it. I think one of the silliest uses of it
makes more sense.
One of the silliest uses of it is when the Doctor uses the golden ticket on Mr. Clever.
I knew you were gonna fucking say Nightmare and Silver. I swear, this is just your excuse to say, so, the Moffat era, the Moffat era Cyberman story, or just New Who Cyberman stories after RTD, apart from, the good one in Series 10. But other than that, all the other ones, yeah, fuck them. This is how you do a not shit story.
Yeah, well, Closing Time is shite, Nightmare and Silver is shite, and Death in Heaven is shite, so there you go.
Out of those three, Closing Time is my favourite, and I think that's just there.
I think I prefer, if you count both parts, I think I prefer Dark Water, Death in Heaven, because I like part 1. But part 2 is not good.
I don't even like part 1. I don't even like part 1.
Oh, really?
I don't hate it.
I mean, there are parts... I mean, to be fair,
I'm not really a fan.
There are parts of part 1 I don't like. Specifically,
for me, it just feels overbearing.
The bit where Missy tries to kisses the Doctor, I don't like that.
I don't mind the Doctor kissing Missy, like in part 2.
Oh no, that's fine. I'm talking about the bit where she sexually kisses him in part 1.
Yeah, sexually assaults him.
Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure that's the last. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the last time the Doctor kissed someone on screen, because I don't think there's ever been one since.
Yeah, that two-parter. That two-parter was the last. The last time the Doctor kisses someone on screen was the Master.
No, hang on. Do you count Last Christmas?
Does he kiss someone in Last Christmas?
I know that Clara kisses him on the cheek.
No, that's not a lip-to-lip kiss. That's not making out. I'm kind of glad
he kisses Clara's hand and face the Raven.
That's just politeness.
And then the Doctor gets choked by the Master in Spyfall.
Now that's not called kissing, but that is kinky.
and he makes her kneel and call him Master.
Again, not kissing, but kinky.
And then there's that bit at the end of Time where the Master ties up the Doctor and covers his mouth.
I mean, that's before, but again, kinky.
Yeah.
If the Master was in this one, do you think there would be a sort of kink?
I do wonder though.
I mean, the next time you see the Master, it's kinky.
In the End of Time, when they all turn into the Master, does the Sushida One Master turn into John Sim, or does he stay as Sushida One?
No, because it's all the humans.
Right. So the Master may have seen himself in the future. May have seen his future self in that story.
But the question is, would Ruth turn into the Master?
I'm not sure. Good question, actually.
Because she's disguised as human at that point.
I don't know. Chris Chibnall doesn't really, take care with the canon, does he? He just sort of does whatever he wants. Yeah. He's very reckless, isn't he?
But at the same time, you could just say Big Bang retcon that.
Apparently the shoot was pretty rancorous when JNT brought Kevin Clark. Andrew Cartmel jumped on the first train back to London to escape the poisonous atmosphere. Things got so bad that even McCoy lost his temper and snapped at Sophie Aldred. I couldn't stop the tears rolling down my cheeks. Luckily, this broke the tent. Syl gave me a big hug and we laughed at our bad temper. Ooh.
Fucking hell, yeah, I forgot about that. That was... Ooh.
Our bad date.
Like, but you can't tell, because they're as harmonious as ever in this story.
Well, it's just like, you know...
But I guess it's because they're both professional.
Well, it's just like, you know, when you got, like... When Tom Baker would get all angry post-Elizabeth Sladen, because obviously she could control him because she was so charming. But when he got pissed off post-Liz Sladen, like, obviously behind the scenes it was hell, but on screen he was still very charming.
Yeah.
You know, like in season 15 and 14 with Louise Jameson, obviously he didn't get along with her that well, but his doctor on screen is very, very charming.
Probably because, like, Hinchcliffe could probably rein him in. Because apparently he could rein him in too. But then Graham Williams...
Apparently there was a little bit of tension between him and Mary Tam because he kept on eyeing her up.
I mean...
But I don't blame him.
I bet if Dylan was here, he'd be like, "Oh, I would too, mate."
And Brian as well. Like,
I mean, all I'm gonna say is she's an attractive woman, or she was an attractive woman. She's dead now. That would be necrophilia. But you know, she was an attractive woman when she was alive, even till the day she died. Like, yeah.
Right. He got the second Romana.
For a few years.
Lala Ward and her hamster smile.
I personally find Lala Ward more attractive. I don't like the fact that you said hamster smile before I said that.
But it does look like it, doesn't it, when she smiles?
I mean, you're not wrong, but
She almost looks like a Dr. Zeus character. You think about it?
Maybe.
I hope Lala Ward never watches them. But I would very, very sad if I hurt her feeling.
Yeah. We love you, Lala. We love you.
No, she sounds like a Tory.
We still love you. Please. Please don't be a terrible person.
Anton Differing, who played DeFleur, who was the old guy in charge of the Nazis, he was very unwell when he worked on this and he died a year later.
That's sad. But he managed to pull through. I think his performance was adequate.
But apparently the actor, even though he's played the Nazis in many film and TV productions, he fled Nazi Germany when he was young because he was liberal and gay.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. And to be honest, I think he would want to play the Nazis to portray them accurately.
Sylvester McCoy says the serial for him is a disappointment and it would have been good if it wasn't the 25th anniversary story.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing holding it back, isn't it? Is that it's 25th anniversary story. It really isn't.
Yeah, but I try not to think about that. I
feel like
Remembrance
Remembrance of the Daleks should really be the official 25th anniversary.
That's what most people consider it, to be honest. You know. It's... I mean, it is better in every way as well. Just as a story.
Oh,
and as a story that's like this. Yeah.
Dolores Gray, who played Mrs. Remington, I believe that's the woman in the car, right?
I believe so, yeah.
She left her valuable jewels in a suitcase on the street in London without realizing it.
Okay. I'm guessing it was during the time of the shoot. But, yeah.
Apparently J&T wanted actual Queen Elizabeth II in it. This is a myth and rumour, by the way. This is not necessarily trivia, but it's what people have said. Apparently J&T wanted the actual Queen Elizabeth II in it, but they got impersonated Mary Reynolds instead.
I'm not surprised he actually wanted the Queen. Like, J&T was famous for his stunt casting.
You know, when
he's like
when I first watched The Idiot's Lantern as a kid, I thought Maureen Lipman's character was Queen Elizabeth II because they do look similar.
That is true.
He's armed and ready.
By the way,
withdraw.
The speaking of Queen Elizabeth, like, do you know who plays Queen Elizabeth in Voyage of the Damned? Who voices her?
Voices who?
Queen Elizabeth.
No, I don't.
Jessica Martin, who also played Mags in Greatest Show in the Galaxy.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Doctor.
Just came into my head.
Thank you, Doctor. Yes, I'm Queen.
Yeah, I guarantee if Christopher Eccleston had stayed, he would not have been happy to be in those stories that feature the Queen.
He'd be like, Parasite in Chief.
Yeah, imagine the Ninth Doctor in The Idiot's Lantern. He would have ad-libbed lines,
Imagine
taking
the Ninth
swipes.
Doctor in Voyage of the Damned. He just let the Titanic crash
He'd be like,
and kill the Queen.
They're just like, you're gonna save the Queen, Doctor. That's your opinion. Just imagine him looking at. I feel like honestly, the Idiot's Lantern would be a better story if he was in it though. It would be so much funnier.
It would basically be the same, just replace David Tennant and Christopher Eccleston.
Yeah, I know.
Because it was written for.
But I feel like that kind of
but...
stupid humor that Mark Gatiss went for would have been so much more funny with Chris Eccleston because he's so staunch.
Yeah.
Like him trying to be Elvis on a bike would be absurd.
I bet he'd just wear a wig for that.
You go my way, doll. He just sees Queen Elizabeth on the TV. He's just like, chief in an idiot hat.
Especially after Tooth and Claw.
And when he kills the wire, he says, I hope the world turns around and shits on you.
Oh, man.
Oh, dear. Well, but then again, in that parallel universe, David Tennant probably wouldn't have the career that he has now.
Yeah, and I'm glad he does. I'm glad Eccleston's doing Big Finish now. Although I've heard that, I think someone told me this was your opinion, that Ravagers is the worst Ninth Doctor story.
I think Food Fight's better than The Long Game, but the other two are the worst, I think.
All right. I mean, then again, it is a fairly high bar.
Like the first one, Spear of Freedom, yeah, that is for me the weakest Ninth Doctor episode.
Like, what would you give it out of 10?
I gave it a...
For my benefit.
6 or a 6.5? Maybe a 5?
Again, that's not bad. That's not bad.
Yeah.
But it's...
Like, I'll give the Long Game...
For your standards,
I'll give the Long Game a 7.
So would I.
Yeah.
It's weird. Why is it that any opinions, newly stated for us, like, in these videos, as soon as we get a new opinion, we're just like, match.
It's crazy, isn't it? Anyway, speaking of ratings out of 10, what is your conclusion and rating out of 10 for Silver Nemesis?
My conclusion is, it's kind of messy, kind of like the last Cyberman story, but it's fun, and it knows what it wants to be. It's just not being it in the best way it could. That's partially due to the fact that it's 3 parts, but it's a nice, short, fun adventure. I'd compare it to Doubt on the Bounderman the year before because of its fun, yet more mature aspect. But I would say this is probably just a bit better because when this story is good, it actually is really good. And the action scenes are probably the best written action we've had in Doctor Who for a while at this stage. Well, apart from Remembrance, obviously, but like I do genuinely think the action scenes are written really well, and I would say are fairly on par with Remembrance. It's just everything around them. The main bulk of the story is nowhere close. I do think the Cybermen were handled fine. The neo-Nazis were undercooked, but Lady Painfort and Richard are brilliant, and the Nemesis as a MacGuffin is... MacGuffins are not usually unique, and saying it's unique is kind of weird because it's literally just the Hand of Omega, but again. But I would say it does give off a different vibe, even if it's the same sort of story device. But something else that the story does that gives off a different vibe is like the location work is brilliant, and also Seventh Doctor and Ace are on top form yet again, and the jazz music. Mwah. So all in all, I said I would say this is comparable to Delta and the Bannerman, and just like that story, I'd give this one a 7 out of 10.
Alrighty, so yeah, Silver Nemesis, obviously as a 25th anniversary story, it doesn't live up to that hype. It's a bit disappointing in that regard. The Cybermen, not their best story, but I still enjoyed them. The Neo-Nazis, like you said, very underdeveloped. However, the other half of it, Seventh Doctor and Ace, really good. And I really liked the characters from the 1600s. They were a lot of fun. And, the plot is very video game-esque. It's very follow the MacGuffin, 4 factions at war trying to get it, and then at the end there's a resolution. It's a very simple story. It's not particularly great, but it's fun. I do think the Cartmel Master Plan stuff in execution, in terms of the dialogue, is delivered a bit bland. I also think that Kevin Clark's idea for it doesn't quite work, but I think that the way that J&T and Andrew Cartmel translated that to script toned it down a bit and savoured what could have been a very strange take on it, but I think it just about gets away with it. I just wish that some of the dialogue was handled a bit better. But on the whole, I did enjoy the story. I don't think it's bad, and I don't consider it to be anywhere near like, what should be considered, bad stories that have... I don't know what I'm saying. Silver Nemesis is all good, and like you, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10. Definitely.
I had a feeling you would.
Definitely one of my lesser favorite McCoy stories, but I still like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which means that we only have one more thing to do. And that is...
defend a story against Hellbent.
To defend a story against Hellbent. And I think that this one will be fairly easy for us to do, because I know that we both like this story.
Okay.
But it's one that I do see, not all the time, but I do see quite a bit of dislike for on the occasion, especially from younger fans I've seen, and some older fans too. It seems to be people that were watched Doctor Who when it was in the classic era tend to not like this one, and then also people that started watching after the Russell era also tend to not like this one. But this story is one that is liked usually amongst people that are very into the Russell era. So it's kind of one of those ones where you sort of got to hit that sweet spot. It is a 9th Doctor story. It is the end of the world.
Huh.
Yeah, so this might sound strange that I
don't get why
putting
people
this down,
don't like
because I know, like I said, I know that we both like this story a lot, but I just think I see quite a lot of dislike for it, and it is ranked pretty low on the DWM. But
I do admit, it does feel like New Who's starting to get its footing, like trying to see what works. Like, I think Rose was the perfect first episode, but this is a second episode. It's kind of funky. I do remember I didn't like it when I first watched it, because that was the last episode of New Who I actually watched before I had caught up with all of it. I didn't like it initially, but then when I watched it in full, because my school actually had a Doctor Who club, and on the 10th anniversary of New Who, we watched Rose and then the beginning of End of the World, and I was like, eh. But actually, watching it in full, I do think it's a nice sort of conspiracy story. It's been handled better. I do think stuff like Robots of Death is better. And I do feel like Cassandra... I don't like Cassandra as a villain. I'm just going to say that.
Oh, you don't like Cassandra?
I don't like her as a character. No, I think she's serviceable in Enemy of the World. enemy of the world, end of the world. She's functional, but the main reason I don't like her is because of how she represents trans people in Doctor Who. Cynical Who actually made a video about that, so check out her video if you want to find out more context.
I don't genuinely believe that Russell T Davies is transphobic, by the way.
No,
especially
neither.
considering how
I'm not making any accusations.
Especially considering how he portrays what's the character's name in It's a Sin. The I believe he's of African descent. I mean, technically, he's a drag queen, but he's not trans. But I don't. And also, there's that trans child in Years and Years as well.
Yeah, who's very much like, although that child is not necessarily explicitly stated to be trans, that child is definitely not conform.
I'd say trans-coded, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't believe that Russell T Davies is transphobic. I just think it's that interpretation of Cassandra comes from personal experiences that people may have had, and how that connects with the dialogue that is said, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that
that's what representation kind of is for queer people.
The fact that she is a villain also makes things a bit complicated in that regard, because you kind of have to make her dislikable, don't you? Which means you're going to have her say some pretty, not very nice things. And so, I get what you're saying, but I also think that...
And trans people were more taboo back then, so it's not like something I can't tolerate, it's just more something that is icky, and something that... Like, when people say that they absolutely despise Cassandra because she's terrible representation, I'm like, no, that's completely valid, because as a queer person myself, although I'm not trans... I do, heck, like even just as a minority person in general, a minority that isn't that visual, or minorities that aren't that visual, representation doesn't come easy, and you have to take what's coded, and you gotta take any sort of hint that you can get, and then applying that to your real-world experience, because that's all you can do.
I tell you what, though.
Like, if you want to be seen, you've got to see people that are like you.
I tell you what, though.
And, yeah, Cassandra's not that
I tell you what, though. One thing that I do in these defenses is I often try and compare something from the story we're talking about to Hellbent, and I think you've actually landed on a topic that I can definitely point out is a similarity that I think is handled much worse in Hellbent. And I can point to the general regeneration scene and how that's handled, and I thought that was really, really out of proportion. You know what I mean? Like, it was... Moffat was trying to do something that was pro-trans, but he did it in such a way that it was poorly executed in terms of dialogue, if you know what I mean. Like, he just didn't pull it off well, and I think... I think it's much more bothersome the way it's done in Hellbent than it is done in End of the World for me. Obviously, I'm not a trans person, so I don't know personal experience what it's like. But if I were to compare the scenes in terms of dialogue and like the damage that they do, I think the Hellbent one is much worse.
I think Hellbent is much worse for everyone.
I think in terms of Hellbent, I think it. Rather than promoting trans people, what it does is instead just demotes anti-trans people. Like, in terms of... not when I say anti-trans, I don't mean people that are against... that are transphobic. I mean as in people that aren't that. You know what I mean? Like, it's...
So, cis people.
Like, it was almost reverse of what it should have been. Like, it should have been more like... when the General regenerates into Tiana Miller, it should have been more like, I feel very good that I've become this. Something that I've always wanted. Rather than, dear God, how do you cope with all that ego? You know, I feel like that was the wrong angle to take.
Like, I don't think it's necessarily meant alienating towards cis people. It's just being misandrist.
Yeah, basically.
So, it's basic... But then again, Moffat's humour tends to be a very misandrist, and I'm not saying this... like that scene's an
I know what you're saying. He likes to...
There was a lot of scenes, including between the Doctor and Clara, which Hellbent
and the Doctor and River Song.
Not that aspect. Yeah, and that's like the domestic abuse towards men.
Moffat
and just
Moffat
sexual abuse towards men.
Moffat likes to be dominated. It's been established.
Yeah. I'm just thinking, like, I do feel like something like End of the World, like, with its representation of, like, I guess, transness. I'm trying to be as vague as possible so that covers general from Hellbent. But, that representation of transness is damaging towards trans people in a more subtle way, but it's still very dangerous. Transphobia, intentional or not, and no matter how harsh it is always dangerous because it leads to because you know J.K. Rowling,
yeah,
and how she's been very open about that, and people are like, oh, it's just her opinion, it won't actually affect people. People that are actually passing anti-trans laws, transphobic laws, are quoting her. So transphobia can echo into something that can be more.
Yeah, unfortunately, a lot of it stems from
the
the end result of what happens rather than, you know, the meaning or intention. A lot of it is the end result.
Exactly, exactly. And I don't think Russell T Davies was intending this to be an issue. I think he was more thinking, oh, it's a future world, anything can happen. Like, that was, to me, what his intention was.
Yeah, he was probably just... It was probably just like, in the year 5 billion, transitioning gender is probably just willy-nilly. Like, it just sort of just happens.
Yeah.
I think that's what he was intending.
Like, in my opinion, authorial intent is important to understanding a story. That's just the cultural impact of that. And meanwhile, I feel like the cultural impact of Hellbent is more so Doctor Who is some woke garbage.
But again, like, also you do have to take into consideration, like, what people understood about transsexuality in 2005, even actually before that, 2004. Like, how much knowledge we had about the science behind it was a lot different back then, and I think it was a lot less nuanced. It was a lot more sort of just very basic understanding. I think that's probably... A lot of it probably comes down to that, and that might be why it's aged, because our understanding of the science behind it is very different now than it was then.
And our understanding of, like, culture has changed, and our understanding of how...
Well, like, 'cause, like, Russell T Davies was very woke for his time. Very. But it's just, you have to, again, take into consideration that there's only so much he could have known in 2004, really.
Yeah, I mean, then again, it's kind of like that line of, that's so gay in...
Aliens of London.
Aliens of London.
Yeah. Because that's what...
I genuinely think that's the same thing. But because he's not trans, that's why people think Cassandra's out of line.
Well, the thing is, like, again, like we said, is that's what young people said back then, you know, all the time. Like teenagers just like, oh, that's so gay. Like that's just a normal thing.
I remember that when I was in fucking primary school.
Yeah, I used to say it.
Maybe wasn't at that time. It was a few years later, but still.
I used to say it. Like, everyone said it. You know, it was just something that we did.
Everyone said it. Yeah, that's true. That's true. And I guess cultural viewings of trans people were a bit negative. And I think Doctor Who was less harsh. Sure, the villain just happened to say that they were trans, but again, I don't think they were villainizing Cassandra because she was trans. If anything, they're villainizing her because she's so self-obsessed with her appearance, and she's plastic surgery gone too far.
Yes.
But also, she's also just a bitch.
Anyway.
A bitchy trampoline.
There is one other thing that I can compare End of the World and Hellbent for, and there's that they both...
Yes, please move on. I want to have more interesting conversation than just the ethics of
one of my favourite things about End of the World, and one of my least favourite things about Hellbent, is Gallifrey. I love the way that the End of the World is a metaphor for what the Doctor has just experienced with his own planet, and how Rose saw the end of her planet just like the Doctor saw the end of his. I love the character work they go through. I love the, not really fighting, but the tension between them, and how when Rose starts asking personal questions, he gets very defensive. I love the way that his interactions with Jabe, and the way that she knows about the Time Lords, and the way that she brings emotion out of him. I love how Rose realizes that she's just gone away on a travel with this stranger and didn't even think about it. I just think the character drama and the character work in The End of the World is so top tier. It's classic Russell T Davies, timeless character work. And
because I think I probably, when I first watched it, I probably thought, oh, the Doctor's just being a dick. But then when you watch it the whole way through and see that ending, it makes sense.
I think a lot of people have that with Russell T Davies Doctor Who on Twitter. I'd say a lot of people are like, oh, well, the Doctor's just a dick, and I'm like, hang on a second, watch it again with context.
How about you finish watching it?
How about
You know?
How about you think about the context, and it might actually be really, really good. Because it is. It's really good.
Like, here's the thing. I personally think it is well written, but if it's not for you, it's not for you, and that's fine.
Yeah, I suppose.
That's valid.
I mean, if you want,
But
if what you
like-
want is escapism, where nice people are nice to each other, you can go watch that if you want. But you know, I know what I like.
Yeah.
I like me a bit of nihilism, and I like me a bit of protagonists being assholes.
If I wanted nice people being nice, I'd just fucking watch City of Death. and just The Pirate Planet, and just season 16 mostly. And well, yeah, I guess a bit of season 17 as well. But yeah, like, yeah. But here's the thing with speaking of the Doctor being a dick, like, I know this ties in with Gallifrey, so my tangent is going back, but it's still on that tangent, and that is the Doctor just murdering the General. Just like, okay, the Doctor's being a dick. Why is he being a dick? Maclara.
Because Maclara. The implication is that Clara is important enough to make him drive insane, lose his morals, and become the hybrid.
The Doctor was being a dick in End of the World because he was just traumatized due to the fact that his whole planet.
But
was
it's a
gone.
very
And a whole war he's just fought as
it's
well.
a very well crafted misunderstanding too, because Rose doesn't actually know why he's traumatized. She's just asking him reasonable questions that a human would ask a stranger. And
Yeah.
it creates a conflict that you can understand both sides for. And I think that's something that Russell is very good at doing.
Meanwhile, in Hellbent, although you can get why the Doctor is feeling that way, and I feel like that being a common defense, I get, but like at the same time, he's resorting to murder, and that's what it is, cold-blooded murder. I know it's a Time Lord, but regeneration has been described in the new series, something that was celebrating its 10th anniversary, and in my opinion, Series 9 actually tried incorporating elements from all 10 years. Poorly, but I think it still tried to do that. So clearly, I think Moffat knew what he was doing, but that makes it so
it's
that
forced and unearned.
It's all the more clear that, oh, the Doctor's killing someone and regenerating feels like dying. It's dying.
It's not necessarily even about the ideas, it's about the execution. It's so forced and unearned that I can't actually believe that it would happen. I don't understand why Clara is so important to the point where he would completely lose his personality.
And it's not just
Whereas,
that, he would destroy time.
To bring that back to the end of the world, I do understand how the Doctor feels because of the context they give you at the end of the episode. When they explain what happened and why he's like this, you understand why he acted that way. You understand. And again, going back to rewatchability, that makes the episode rewatchable because now you can see it the second time round knowing why he's like that.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Hellbent doesn't give you that context other than Maclara. And it's just like, why didn't the Doctor do this with Adric when he became president? You know? Yeah, that's basically it. Why didn't the Doctor just do that with Adric?
Who the hell knows?
You know? Because Adric was clearly important to the Doctor. They were good friends. But Clara, there's been no one like Clara. And it's just like, fuck off. Like, here's the thing. I don't think it's a good idea, even if the Doctor did that with... let's say Clara was completely replaced by Ace. I still would think that's a bit of an iffy move. I'd probably forgive it more because I like Ace, but it doesn't mean to say that I think it's an entirely good move.
Well, for me, it doesn't matter.
Because what they were planning to do with Ace in season 27, I personally don't like.
For me, it doesn't actually matter who it is. It's all about whether or not it's earned. Like, if Hellbent was about Sarah Jane, it still would have been forced. It doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah, like, Connor, my point is, regardless of who it is, I still feel like there is issue. I probably wouldn't be as mad about it, but the fact that it's my least favorite character in the show makes it all the more worse.
Yeah, the sting is a lot.
Like, if it was my favorite character, if it was my favorite companion, if it was my favorite companion, I'd still have issues because like what they were planning to do with Ace in season 27, which was make her a Time Lord, I have issues with. Like I don't absolutely hate it. I'm just like that doesn't really work for the character of Ace in my opinion. Sort of like how this doesn't work on any level.
Yeah.
So yeah, no.
Also, in terms of plot, yes, End of the World's plot isn't the best, but I still think it's functional. I still think it works. And also...
I think End of the World's just a bit messy.
A little bit, but I still think it's functional. I still think it works, and I think it's override... Sorry, what's the word? Is it overridden or overrid? It's basically made up for by the fact that the character drama is so good that it makes it worth it. Whereas with Hellbent, the plot is over in about 10 minutes, isn't it? Like, once he gets rid of Rassilon, it just turns into...
Actually, no, the plot doesn't start until like 10 minutes in, and then the plot ends like 5 minutes later.
Yeah, true, yeah. So once he gets rid of Rassilon, the plot is just kind of gone.
Like, he's eating soup for 10 minutes, then Rassilon's like, I'm Rassilon.
Yeah, basically, Hellbent,
like,
for the most part, has a non-existent plot, really, and it's all about the characters. But the character drama is shite. And forced and unearned.
So it's...
whereas the End of the World is not forced, not unearned, it's very earned, very well crafted, compelling, beautiful.
Yeah. To recap, End of the World tried to have a plot, but even when it failed, the character drama was delicious. Meanwhile, Hellbent didn't have a fucking plot, and the character drama is some of the worst things ever.
Yes, this is what I have to say is that 2 out of 3 ain't bad, because End of the World has great character drama, great themes, and an okay plot. Hellbent has shit character drama.
I would say that's 2.5 out of 3.
Yeah. Hellbent has shit character drama, shit plot, and shit themes.
So that's 0 out of 3.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and also End of the World has good world building as well. Like, this is the start of the New Earth trilogy, and it introduces elements that would, branch. Obviously not all of it carried over, only Cassandra really, but in terms of that whole destination that they were going to, it set up New Earth, which then set up Gridlock. So there's also that too.
Yeah.
Whereas Hellbent did the opposite, where Chris Chibnall was like, well, what the fuck do I do now? And then what he ended up having to do was...
He wanted to have his own clean
He's
slate,
like, I don't want to have to deal with the mess that Stephen Moffat did. I'm just going to blow it all up. And then you get Spyfall and The Timeless Children.
To be honest, even if Stephen Moffat did good things, I still think Chris Chibnall would have blown
Probably.
it up. So I think that's more Stephen Moffat's issue.
Probably.
I feel like Chris Chibnall blowing up Gallifrey as a clean slate is lazy.
It's probably more...
That's just a bit lazy.
It's probably more...
Stephen Moffat was
I
more
feel like the
issue
Chris Chibnall
in
thing is
that
probably
regard.
more so a reaction to Day of the Doctor rather than Hellbent.
Yeah.
Gallifrey just should have stayed gone. I'm so salty about it.
It should have.
Some of my...
I'm glad it's
some of
gone
my
again,
least...
because I would.
Some of my least favourite Doctor Who has come from the fact that Gallifrey was brought back.
Yeah.
So annoying.
Some of my least favourite Doctor Who just comes from Gallifrey. I mean, some of the best Doctor Who does, like War Games, Deadly Assassin. That's about it. In my opinion, like I know you're probably a bit more forgiving on End of Time than I am.
And
to be honest, I'm more forgiving on End of Time than most
post
RTD haters.
I would probably say all of the post Deadly Assassin Gallifrey stories are a bit iffy. I think,
including End of Time.
Yeah, but the thing is with End of Time is
Yeah.
it's more so to do with the plot at hand rather than Gallifrey. I think. I'm fine with. I'm mostly fine with the. I know that it contradicts a lot of Big Finish, but in terms of the TV stuff, I'm not as. I don't think the Gallifrey stuff is as bad as some people say. I know that it's very.
I personally, I don't
different.
like how Rassilon is written, but I like how he's performed, so that kind of cancels it out. Other than that, yeah Gallifrey's fine.
Russell does change a lot. Like, obviously in Classic Who from like the 70s and 80s, the Gallifreyans and the Time Lords, they're very political, whereas in the End of Time, they're more like fantasy characters, and I know that's a very big change for some people.
It went from a classic Tory thing to full-on dictatorship, kind of like what we're going through now. But it's something like
Well,
that. Honestly,
but
I
it's
think
not
Rassilon
as-
in End of Time's more comparable to Trump than he is to Boris Johnson.
Well, the thing is like I said, it's not really hard politics, is it? It's much more like fantastical. Like you've got like a fortune teller, and you've got prophecies, and you've got magic powers, and it is very fantasy in comparison.
Yeah, and in my opinion, honestly, I would I would write Gallifrey as a sort of weird combination between Asgard from the MCU and the TVA from the MCU.
I haven't seen Loki,
but I know you don't. I know you've not seen Loki, and I know you don't
Loki.
really.
I haven't seen
care
Loki.
about
I get
it.
what you're saying.
I
do
really
get what you're
enjoyed
saying
Loki.
though, that Asgard, in terms of the fantastical elements, is a good comparison to make.
Yeah, and the aesthetics as well.
Like, obviously, we've said before about like Russell T Davies playing around with the sort of godly ideas, and I think his idea was that the Time Lords are like the gods of the universe, whereas in Classic Who they were much more sort of just the political rulers.
Yeah, but in all honesty, that's bringing the Time Lords back to their
But
roots.
I think that one thing Russell
So,
T Davies did so well was in terms of presentation, he made them feel special. The way when they return, he says, "And the Time Lords return." That big cliffhanger.
And the way he set that up in Rose and the End of the World, circling back to it, just so we're not talking about End of Time instead. But, it's all relevant. It all links together because of how Russell.
Oh yeah, that is another
show.
thing. Like, as much as I will admit that End of Time has issues, I think it's fundamentally so much better than Hellbent. So much better.
Yes.
By miles.
Yes.
One of the biggest differences between them for me is characters. Like the character writing in End of Time for the most part, I think is handled very well, whereas in Hellbent it's not. I know that it might be a hot take, but I have my reasons.
Yeah, I mean, I think people would understand that because you are an RTD simp, but I agree because although I don't like End of Time, but I do feel like Part 2 is definitely a bit more enjoyable because what works.
It's a lot more serious. Part 2 is a lot more serious than Part 1 for the most part.
Yeah.
Apart from some,
but I
think there's,
I do feel
there's a bit of levity with like the Cactus characters, but for the most part, it is more serious down the line. Whereas Part 1 is.
I feel like Part 2 is more balanced out, but Part 1's just.
Part 1's very.
I feel like there's more bad than good for me, but that doesn't mean to say it's fundamentally the worst thing ever.
I would agree in terms of
Hellbent is
quality,
closer to that.
yes, but I do very much enjoy Part 1, even though the writing is very all over the place. But I
give Part 1
I
a
do
4.
love watching it, if that makes sense. Even if I don't like some of the writing, I love watching it. I don't know why, I just do.
I give like Part 1 a 4, Part 2 a 5 out of 10.
Better than Hellbent.
And I don't think that's unreasonable. That's better than what most people would give it. As for End of the World, I have it as an 8 out of 10 on my spreadsheet because I think it is, like, although I am saying Series 1, especially early Series 1 was, the show trying to find its footing, it was still really good. I do feel like, although it was more... I feel like Series 1 is a bit more messy than Season 1 of Classic Who structurally. But what it does well, it does so much better. And that's not me bashing Season 1, because Season 1 is one of my favourite seasons of all of Doctor Who. I love it so much, but Series 1 of New Who, I love it. And End of the World...
Well, I mean, the thing...
Although I feel like it doesn't
my
contribute
thinking
much
is,
to that, it does help.
End of the World for me is an 8.5. The reason why I'd say that is 10 out of 10 characters, 10 out of 10 themes, 6 out of 10 plot. And that equals out at an 8.5 for me.
Alright. Yeah, I don't give things a 0.5 rating unless if it's multi-parts. I probably should, because I could theoretically give like a 2-part Classic Who story a
Yeah, well,
0.5,
it just depends
but,
on your criteria, I guess, and your standards.
Yeah, but still, I would say, like, if I did give it like an 8.5, which I could easily see myself doing, it's closer to an 8 than it is a 9. in my
Anyway,
opinion.
the point
So,
is,
yeah.
End of the World is miles better than Hellbent. Like, leagues.
Yeah, I don't, like, we're saying it's flawed. Flawed is better than bullshit. Because what did I give Hellbent? Okay, here it says here that I gave it a 4. I probably won't. I think 3 at
Well,
most.
here's the thing: the weakest thing about End of the World is the plot, and I'd still say that part of it is far better than Hellbent.
Yeah. Because here's the thing: having a plot is better than not really.
Also, there's one bit. You know how Will gets like really annoyed when I correct him about things.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, you're so annoyingly right, Connor. There was one bit where he tried to be like, oh yes, but how does the Doctor step through the fans? And I said, well, there's that scene in Rose where he says that he can feel the Earth turning, he can feel velocity. He's like, what? Of course you proved it.
I mean, that is set up.
It's set up and paid off. That is Ross.
Like, here's the thing, that didn't fucking bother me in the first place because I was just like, Time Lord. but now you're proving that actually was set up that he's Time Lord.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you know, it's.
I mean, because velocity, part of the measurement of velocity, I'm gonna get physicsy. I'm not even a physics student, but I just remember that velocity has something to do with time, baked into its.
Yep.
You know,
see now, and the thing is, if
and he's a Time Lord.
See, the thing is,
so
is
that
if this was a Chibnall story, he would have explained all of that in exposition. But Russell didn't do that. He didn't need to. He put all the cues in the subtext, and so he rewards you if you pay attention. I love that. I love when writers.
And if you don't pay attention, does it fucking matter?
I love when writers reward you for paying attention, which is why Ghostlight is great.
Why the McCoy era as a whole is great.
Apart from
Ghostlight especially.
Apart from the last 10 seconds of Silver Nemesis, which is very blatant.
and some of season 24.
But that
I like the season on the whole, but
that
yeah.
loops us back around. So that was Silver Nemesis.
It was. I cannot deny that was indeed Silver Nemesis.
Yes, it was. But in terms of people watching at home, next time on Worst of Classic Who will be the finale. And you see on the bottom of that screen, the little locks are unlocking and it's opening up dimensions in time.
It's sparkling. It's
next time on the grand finale of Worst of Classic Who, which is I think 2 or 3 years in the making now. I think it's 3 years. I will be watching Dimensions in Time for the first time with as many guests as I can possibly get.
I'll be there. Just give me a time and I'll be like, alcohol.
I will try and get as many people as possible. So I will try and get, probably, you know, when the British people are ready, like sort of, you know, and hopefully Americans too. I hope I can get as many guests that I've had on this podcast as possible. Anyway, thank you for joining me for Silver Nemesis.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You've witnessed me experience a McCoy story for the first time, so I'm sure happy about it.
Yeah, but it could have been one of the better ones. But no, this one, I honestly, I'm glad that you enjoyed it. Like, here's the thing, like, I was expecting my opinion to not change, and it didn't. If it were to change, I would have thought it would have been a bit better, but nah, it's a 7. It's got issues. But it's something that you admit.
My main criticism of the McCoy era is mainly just the seasons are so bloody short. Like, that's the problem, is I wish there was more of it.
Yeah, that's that. And to be honest, when that's your main criticism, you know it's a good run.
Yeah?
Yeah. My main criticism of the Pertwee era is that, like, there's not more season 7. Although I do really like season 10. Like, I've rewatched Silurians recently, and that made season 7 my favourite Pertwee season now. Because I realised, oh wait, it's a lot better than I thought. Okay, no, season 7's the best Pertwee season. And probably my 5th favourite season of all time.
Season 7 is hot.
It ends with Inferno.
Oh yeah, it does.
Like, I messaged Jamie earlier about, like, how, like, I'm doing Silver Nemesis with you, and he's like, oh no, what did you rate it now? And I didn't tell him what I rated it because, like, we hadn't done it yet. So I've let him know that no, it's still a 7.
Because he doesn't like the McCoy era, does he?
No, well, he thinks season 26 is alright. Like, he actually, like, you know the...
All right.
3 stories colloquially known
All
as...
right.
You know... Well,
Bloody
let me elaborate. You
understatement.
know the 3 stories that are colloquially known as the Ace Trilogy?
Yeah.
He gives that, like, consistent, like, 7 out of 10s.
Okay.
Probably a bit more for Curse of Fenric, because he does actually like that one.
I'm sure.
But
I'm
season
sure.
25 he
he'll
thinks is
he'll be
fine.
crushed to know that Battlefield's my second favorite of season 26.
I'm not crushed to know that, but I just disagree, because here's the thing, like... So far, like... Last time I watched season 26, this will probably be changed by the time this video goes out. Last time I watched season 26, I gave 3 stories a 9 out of 10, and then Curse of Fenric a 10. I might give 3 stories a 10 and Battlefield a 9.
We'll have to wait and see.
We'll have to wait and see.
Although for you, this will be like months in the past by now, and you'll already probably have finished the entire marathon.
I don't know if I'll finish the entire marathon.
Oh yeah, true.
I'll just be
you might get to like you might get to like series 7 and just be grinding through the Moffat era and like
I would just be like, kill me now.
Yeah.
Because like the 3 seasons with Clara in it are my 3 least favorite. Meanwhile, the 2 full seasons with Ace in them are my 2 favorites.
Series 7 and 9 are quite low for me. 8's a little bit higher.
Series 8 is lower. Series 8 is actually lower. For
I know.
Two.
I know. You don't like that one, do you?
That might change. Because
have you seen the discussion I had with Adam Martin about Series 8?
I did, and here's the thing: Series 8 I do like conceptually, but like
I do too. I think conceptually it could be.
Awfully.
I think on paper it could be one of the best, but it's just execution is.
That's the same for season 18 for me, but I think the execution just made it a bit bland.
See, I love season 18.
But that's Chris H. Bidmead's fault. But here's the thing: I do when I like something about season 18, I love it. When I like something about series 8. I grasp onto it because it's the only thing I like and not vehemently hate.
I see. With season 8, you know I love season 18. With series 8, a lot of it's quite forced, and doesn't feel. I can't when things are forced and pretentious. I find it difficult to believe. But the thing is with season 18, like it's obviously very high concept, but I still believe it, and that's what makes it stick for me. Is I actually do believe. And I think that's probably why I love Classic Who so much, is that a lot of it's so believable and honest.
Yeah. Yeah, it feels very naturalistic. And some people complain about, it's too long, it's talky. And I'm just like, well, to me that doesn't bother me because A, that's just how things were made. B, I grew up on this shit. And C, in my opinion, just like the conversations they actually have actually feel natural for the situation. Like, there may not be too much action. Or, well, Cyberman stories in the 80s, yes, there are. And Dalek stories in the 80s, well. The Resurrection and Remembrance have action. But not so much Revelation, but still. There's some action in it, but yeah. But it's not like there's no action, but it's still mostly dialogue-based, especially 62. And that's why most people consider it slow, but, you know. As I say, I love Classic Who. I think each decade brings something to the show that I love. The 80s take something away sometimes as well. But other than that, I just love... For me, the worst seasons of Classic Who, the 3 worst, are 18 and 20, which are just kind of boring. And then... 15 and 23, which are just very flawed. But when the worst you get is boring and very flawed,
you're pointing out seasons that have, like, you know, Horror of Fang Rock and Mind Warp and
exactly,
and, you know, State
when
of Decay.
That's the worst
and
you get. When
bloody Snake Dance, Enlightenment, you know.
I'd say
I'm trying to remember which ones you also like, because I could have named a whole bunch of others.
Yeah, no.
Because I was about to say The Keeper of Traken and Warrior's Gate, then I was like, hang on a second.
No, but the thing is, I'd give Warrior's Gate like a 6 now. I would say it's on par with Logopolis.
Give it a 10.
No, it's still kind of a bit boring, but not. The ideas
I was
like.
captivated by every single frame of that story.
It is directed wonderfully. The direction is the strong point.
Anyway, we've been rambling on. I need to stop the recording. So, thank you for joining for Film with the Nemesis. We'll see you next time for Dimensions in Time. Bye bye.